All right, everybody, what is going on? What is going on? All right, we got so much to. This was a fucking amazing chapter. Also, it's Halloween, so I've got before you got questions, this is Halloween. I'm supposed to be Jack Skellington. There's like a thing that goes around my neck too, but I'm having trouble finding it, so I'll find it after stream. Anyway, figured I'd dress up a little bit. We're actually hosting a Halloween party right this evening, a little bit later. So there's other stuff that I gotta do. But this chapter was fucking, like, this is phenomenal. Let's get the stream likes up to 50 real quick. I got a lot of supers to answer. Hold on. Akash Panda, thanks for the 10, man. Good to see you as usual. Theory, Emu has intent reversing powers, attacks with intent to hurt. Can't hurt him or nullify his power. Joy Boy hurt him and nullified the Gorsei's powers because his hockey knot had no hostility to it. I don't know. I think that that's an interesting theory, but at the same time, it's just like, how do you... I think it's just a powerful hockey. I think it's just powerful hockey because, like, how do I say this? I can't imagine how's Luffy going to fight Emu, assuming that happens, if Luffy's not allowed to have hostility to his hockey. Same with, like, a lot of... how does any character fight Emu? That's an interesting idea, though. It's an interesting idea. Carnage, thanks for the 10. There is a good chance that the fruits Rocks were after were the Nika fruit and the Yami Yami no Mi, which was likely Davy's fruit when he was around. This implies Rocks thought Harold could be Joy Boy. Yeah. I think that I'm leaning towards that now, too. I think it's the Yami Yami no Mi and the Nika fruit. I do think that's a very, very high possibility. It's just interesting because Harold doesn't seem like Joy Boy at all, but maybe Rocks was giving it the benefit of the doubt because it's like, well, the Elbaf giants, they're really attached to Joy Boy, so it, like, fits that obviously... An Elbaf giant could use the the Nika fruit really well. Sorry, the Elbaf giants are very attached to Nika, so he might have just been like, yeah, the Elbaf giants, like king of the giants, he could use the Nika fruit really well, but then in actuality, it's just like, you see how the Nika fruit actually works, and Harold would be a terrible user. I mean, it would obviously be strong in Harold's hands, because Harold is just naturally very powerful, but Harold wouldn't use it as effectively as Luffy. Carnage, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 1 month. Also think it's pretty certain that the Yami Yami no Mi is a mythical Zoan fruit, which we will see when Blackbeard awakens it. My only thought then, though, is that I feel like if it's a mythical Zoan, what is the mythical what is it a mythical Zoan of? You know, I feel like that's... So I don't think that's the case, because I just don't see what it would be a mythical Zoan of at this point, unless Oda introduces another god. Azer, thanks for the 2. Morge, did Whitebeard get blasted through the mountain or no? We'll find out next chapter. Maybe. He might have gotten blasted through the mountain. Maybe. Fading Phase, thanks for the 5. I love the parallel between Dragon on the ground saying I couldn't save a single baby and Luffy and Sabaody saying I couldn't save a single friend. Oh, really fucking good point. Really good point, man. Yeah, really good point. That's a phenomenal parallel to point out. Let's get the stream likes up to 50 real quick. Let's get stream likes up to 50. Very, very good parallel. There's just so much to talk about here. So much to talk about with Dragon. So much to talk about that, like, I could do a video on, like, every fucking, like, Kuma. This connects things for Kuma's character. This chapter, obviously. This connects things for Dragon. This does so much for so many characters. I'm just loving God Valley so much right now. This is fucking amazing stuff. Absolutely amazing stuff. And we got an SBS that came out, as people are pointing out. Carnage, thanks for the 5. That last panel, 6 years and 200 chapters in the making. Can't believe we're finally here. Also, the champion of God Valley, nowhere to be seen. The champion of God Valley. People are saying Sengoku did Sengoku was the one who did propaganda, but in actuality, it was, it wasn't Sengoku. It was Garlig. Garlig somehow paid off the narrator to lie for him. Hold on. Yeah, I don't know who he paid off, but he paid somebody. He paid somebody there. Ajay, thanks for 2. A plus Kash Patel costume. Harold not coming sucks. I think Harold might still come. We don't know. Omarwa, thanks for the 2. SBS leaked. Queen is Frankie's father confirmed. Yeah, I don't know how... I mean, like, it's... whatever. We kind of had it confirmed before, almost. But now it's just, like, in stone. It's like... it's whatever. I think it's not the biggest deal. It's just like, Frankie's not like some crazy important legendary character. It's just, I feel like it would have been cool in some way if that played into his storyline for the Wano arc in some way, because like as much as One Piece makes a big deal about like lineage doesn't matter, your blood doesn't matter, that's what the story says. But in actuality, the story makes a huge deal about lineage. Like, every single major character is the child of some other major character, and that tends to have really important story meaning. Like, because you can have story meaning with the characters being very similar, right? But you can also have story meaning with the characters being very different. Like, I did a whole video about how the Rocks and Blackbeard contrast says so much about the two characters. I think my only thing with Frankie is that, like, there's no it feels very random. It just feels like they're almost like Queen's like shitty, obviously, but like, they're both introduced dancing and stuff. They both like to tinker. Beyond that, it just feels like kind of random, and it just makes it feel more like Frankie is not as important of a Straw Hat as other Straw Hats, like, because there's so much that Oda can say between the contrast between Sanji and Judge, right? With Zoro, his father obviously doesn't really matter that much, but at least being a descendant of Ryuma, that has some level of meaning for Zoro's destiny and everything like that, right? With Frank, it's just like, fuck it. Also, that means that Sanji just beat up Frankie's dad. It's like a lot of interesting stuff that doesn't really get explored. It's funny, though. Yeah, what was I saying? Hold on. Sorry, something's not loading. Taptio Treviso, thanks for the 5. Davy Jones was the king of the world that Emu stole. That Emu stole the throne from, and Blackbeard will reclaim, and Luffy will have to beat Blackbeard for the Dawn. I am actually now on board with that. I don't want to say anything further because what's the line? Next Tuesday's video. We wait for next Tuesday's video. I've got so much to say about this. I am on the train now that it might be Luffy versus Blackbeard as the final battle. Jacob Orban, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 3 months, man. I think Voice of All Things could have been created or first used to combat Dami Reversi. Zunisha committed a sin 800 years ago, and everyone is apologizing to Joy Boy. Oh, that's an interesting idea. As a way to go, because it seems like his will is still speaking through despite the brainwashing. Also, let's get stream likes up to 100 real quick. Let's get stream likes up to 100. Rihanna Zara, thanks for the 5. How do you feel about Oda confirming in an SBS that Rocks ambushed that admiral and still was forced to retreat after mortally wounding him? Oh, shit. I think I missed that. The fuck? I thought I saw the SBS things. Let's see. Hold on, let me see. What? That's crazy. Let me take a look. Are you sure? I just did a search on the Reddit thread. I don't see it there. Oh, that's fake? Oh, never mind. Okay, never mind. That was fake. Okay. I was just like, that throws everything I thought out the window, because I was just like, I thought the narrator literally established that admirals aren't even strong enough to show up here. And then I was like, well, maybe it's because Rocks was a rookie, but then I was like, no, because Rocks was able to clash with Herald back then, right? I think the fact that Rocks was able to clash with Herald at that point means that Rocks wasn't a rookie when he defeated the Admiral. Like, technically he was a rookie, but he was obviously already really, really, really powerful. Like, he was already equal to Herald, it seems like, at that point. Julian Criswell, thanks for the 5. Thoughts? Emu is the OG Joy Boy body, but with the personality of the 20 Kings mixed together, and immortality. Harkens back to Dofi's Ope Ope comments. I disagree. I think that you just gotta wait for next Tuesday's video, but I think that there is I think there is a lot of evidence as to what actually went down with Emu and the 20 Kings that just came together with this. Yeah, I think that there's a lot that just came together with this that makes a lot of sense. Joy Boy was the first pirate, says Crovis. Davy was also a pirate, but he became one after Joy Boy, but also was king of the world prior. Thoughts on timeline? So Davy Jones becoming a pirate. Again, this is so much Tuesday video stuff. Here's the short version I can say. One of the classic themes of One Piece is how the idea between, like, you're a king one day and then you're a pirate the next day, or you're a pirate one day and then you're a king the next day. That's a constant idea in the story of One Piece. That's something that Oda tries to reiterate over and over, that the idea of labels are meaningless. It's mostly, do you have power or not? And that kind of dictates what you're labeled, right? Davy Jones was a king first. And I believe that he was dethroned by Emu. And then Emu cast him in the role, spread propaganda, and basically labeled Davy Jones a pirate. Because that's what happens in One Piece. When you lose power, then you are criminalized by the one who takes power, right? So it's interesting that the first time that we hear the story of Davy Jones is of him as a pirate. And I think it's really cool that Oda uses classic, like, what are the most classic names in piracy in general as a concept, right? One is Blackbeard, right? Before One Piece, before you read One Piece, just in popular culture. Blackbeard, most popular pirate name, right? The other most popular concept in piracy is Davy Jones, and that's like a mythical pirate, right? So Oda combined these two concepts and was basically like, he likes the idea that these two characters are like to illustrate the idea of what it means to be a pirate versus a king, and how these things just shift back and forth, with the real idea being like the oppressor versus the, like, who's in charge, right? Who's in charge gets to say, I'm the king, I am God, etc., and everybody who opposes me, all of my enemies, they're the criminals, right? If those criminals defeat you, then it becomes the reverse, right? I'm the king. I'm in charge. I'm good. Anybody who opposes me, they're a criminal, right? I love the way that Oda chose to introduce, like, characters that actually, like, Blackbeard is actually royalty, right? Technically speaking. Davy Jones' ancestor was the first king, right? Maybe not the first king ever, but, like, in relevant history, the first king, right? But the way they're introduced to us is basically as outcasts, as pirates, right? As criminals, right? Because that's all that they're known as now, because all that really matters is how the one who actually took power in the end decided to write their narrative. And that applies to so many characters, right? Like, we first meet Yasuo as this wandering, like, vagrant type character. In actuality, he was previously the daimyo of whatever the fuck. Who cares about the Wano, whatever's territories, right? Gonfall is just this random knight of the sky, right? This random ass dude, right? Wiper, introduced as like a terrorist when he's the descendant of Kolgara, who actually was the rightful owner of that land, whatever, right? Oda loves that idea. And here's the coolest thing. I talk about this in my chapter review. Get this, all right? What arc did Oda introduce Blackbeard's name for the first time? When was Blackbeard first mentioned? When was Blackbeard first mentioned? I'll let you guys answer that. Ajay, thanks for the 2. Thoughts on Eris saying Rox wasn't ready yet? We know Rox wasn't ready because he told us his whole plan back in chapter, I want to say 1156, and he didn't have time to get everything together. He needed 2 devil fruits, ideally Herald by his side, but just basically one other person to have one of the devil fruits. So he needed 2 devil fruits. He needed Galila. He was working on stuff. He ultimately had to jump the gun and dive headfirst into God Valley as a risk, because he needed to save his wife and child. So that's the beautiful part. Drum Kingdom. And what is the story of the villain of Drum Kingdom? Somebody tell me Wapple's story in a nutshell. What is the story of Drum Kingdom? What's the story? Introduced by name. Yeah. What's the story? Where a king named Wapple was dethroned. The king became a pirate. The pirate returns because he wants to try to ascend back to the throne and take his rightful place as king. That right there, that's Blackbeard's story. That's the Davy clan story in a nutshell. The irony being that Wapple, the person who dethroned him, was Blackbeard himself, as Blackbeard's going on his own journey. But right off the bat, the story of the Davy clan in a nutshell, Oda spelled it out for us in Drum Kingdom. King, dethroned. King falls to become a pirate. lowly pirate tries to rise back up and wants to become king again, right? That's the cycle. That's the story of Blackbeard, right? It's very, very, very clever how Oda did that. Very, very clever. Note here, don't read too much into morality just yet, because it's like, well, evil king, dethroned, so pirate, and then rise back up, etc. Don't read too much into morality here. I'm just talking about the cycle, right? Oda, like the cycle of like a pirate one day can be a king the next, a king one day can become a pirate the next. We've seen it swap both ways, right? Gonfall was a good king, right? Knocked off his pedestal, became just like a random vigilante, essentially. And then he gets back to kinghood, right? King Riku, good king, knocked off his throne. He's kind of like criminalized in Dressrosa, rises back to his throne at the end. It goes both ways. Wapol, bad king, becomes pirate, but then goes back to his throne in the end, right? So don't read too much into morality, because that's not the point of what I'm getting across here. I'm saying that the point of Blackbeard's story and the Davy clan in general is this idea of like, we're introduced to them as pirates, much like we were introduced to Wapol as a pirate, but then in actuality we learned that they weren't originally pirates, they were the kings, right? And they're just trying to get back to where they once were. But none of that actually means anything, because what does it really mean to be like a king or a pirate? It just means, are you stronger or are you weaker? I really, really like that that whole storyline. Really, really like that whole storyline. Crovis, thanks a lot. Joyboy was the first pirate. Davy was also a pirate. Oh, no, we covered this. Ajay, thanks for the 2. We covered that. Bawa, thanks for the 10. Fuck, hold on. Too much shit. All right. Bawa, thanks for the 10. They will surely meet again. From the mural could be referring to Joyboy and Davy Jones. And I wonder if the king on the Noah on the mural isn't Emu, but Davy. Next week is going to be crazy. I think the king that we see there is Davy, because I think the big bad guy, the devil, is supposed to represent Emu or whoever has the power of that devil fruit, right? I'm convinced now that Emu has the sea devil fruit, because now I'm convinced that everything that Oda name dropped earlier on the series, I personally believe that the earlier something was name dropped in the story, the more likely it is to be one of the foundational ideas of One Piece. So stuff like Davy Jones, right? Early name drop. Sea Devil, very early name drop. I think those things are important ideas for One Piece, personally. I don't think they will surely meet again refers to Joyboy and Davy Jones, because first world, second world end with other things, and then third world it's more like they will meet again. It seems to be saying that it's good for the entire world. I personally believe that it's referring to the continent of the world in general, the Pangea continent idea. But I talk about that in much greater detail in my mural video. Basim Madawi, thanks for the 10. A theory I've had for a long time is that the mythical zones are the purest form of V-Ray cards and are meant to guide people to Laugh Tale. Maybe there aren't mythical figures, but actual legends? Like legendary characters? That's an interesting idea. That's a cool way to blend those concepts. All right. Hold on. All right. Okay. I think that should be good. Rihanna Zara, thanks for the 5. I just can't see Joyboy and Davy being the same character at all. So you're telling me Luffy and Blackbeard both inherited the will of the same guy? No, I'm leaning toward... I don't think Davy Jones and Joyboy are the same person. I think they're two different people. Especially because Blackbeard... Rock seems to imply that Davy Jones and Joyboy are two different characters. You know? Yeah, I hate to hit you with another next Tuesday's video, but it really goes into the detail of that. I think, so the Davy Jones, I think, is a good guy. I think Davy Jones, the original king of the world, was a good king. I think he was the king of the ancient kingdom, really. And Joyboy was the champion of the ancient kingdom. So think of it kind of like a Riku Kiros situation. Or even maybe Joyboy was later in line or something. Maybe it's a Sukiyaki Odin situation or something like that. But just think about it like that, okay? These are both characters that are representing the Ancient Kingdom, just in different ways. Davy Jones being the former king, Joy Boy having been like a clear like warrior from the Ancient Kingdom who probably rebelled against its norms, just become a pirate, etc. But the important thing is Joy Boy came back to fight for the Ancient Kingdom when it was in its time of need. And it's Joy Boy who spearheaded like it's likely Joy Boy who created the poneglyphs and stuff, but the actual will that's spoken down in the poneglyph seems to be the will from Davy. It seems like it's the will of D. Dr. Farewell, thanks to the 5. Davy was the original Straw Hat wearer and was considered his crown as king of the world, which is why Emu has it. Also seeing the Chainsaw Man movie in IMAX tonight, it is so good. It is like one of the best fucking movies I've ever seen. Like, or animated movies at the very least. It is genuinely beautiful. Really elevates the story arc in the manga is very good, but really elevates it. Fantastic piece of art. The thing is, we've seen in the past Joy Boy wearing the hat, but maybe Joy Boy was like, maybe Davy Jones gave him the hat. I don't know. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick, because we're almost there. Let's get the stream likes up to 100. Dr. Farewell, thanks to the 5. Davy was the original Straw Hat wearer. No, we covered that. Flitch, thanks for the 2. What if Kuma accidentally separated Blackbeard from Eris? He is very new with his powers, but I don't believe that happened. That would be crazy, though. I wonder if that means Eris is still around somewhere. That's a really interesting idea. Maybe Eris is Kureha. I'm just kidding. Am I kidding? No, Eris can't be Kureha. I got really... I forgot she's 141 years old. Meek, thanks for the 10. Another great chapter. I think this was a 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10 chapter. This is the type of shit I like. Just like I like it. Like this chapter felt like it had an overwhelming sense of tension. Like you can feel the fear that characters are experiencing. Like you can feel how heavy the situation just turned in the matter of like 3 chapters. Like think about this. Just like 3 chapters ago. Maybe it was chapter like 1160 or something like that. It was just like, yeah, we got Shaggy, we did it, let's all go home or whatever. And now it's just like the whole situation has turned into an absolute nightmare. There's not really any jokes anymore. Now it's just like just the opening part of Rocks just turning into a demon and absolutely demolishing Kaido, Big Mom, seemingly even Whitebeard. You just see like these characters who were so confident a little bit ago. Like, to me, one of the coolest moments of this chapter was seeing Whitebeard like that. Like, Whitebeard genuinely we've never seen Whitebeard like that. Not in the Odin flashback when he's fighting Roger, not in Marineford when he's on life support, but, like, Whitebeard was genuinely, like, I think it's the first time that we've seen Whitebeard just, like, this guy is stronger than me. Like, in front, like, just straight up, like, you know? You could argue when Whitebeard was running from Garp or whatever, but that was, that's like Whitebeard's not even trying to fight him right there or whatever. I'm sure Garp is stronger than Whitebeard here. I'm not trying to get into all that, but I'm just like, it was really crazy seeing Whitebeard, despite being like clearly so strong right now, probably near his prime, right? That was crazy. Like seeing the feeling that Whitebeard feels like he is the underdog against this monster that Rocks has become. That was a really, really cool feeling for me. For me, this is like an 11 out of 10 chapter. I said 10 out of 10 in the reviews because I don't want to do 11 out of 10 for a bunch of things, but really, really great chapter. Yeah. Meek says, Kuma, thanks for the 10. Kuma, the MVP, and Saboti Dragon moment. I can't believe I didn't even that didn't even cross. I think there was just so much else going on in the chapter. It didn't even cross my mind that Dragon is having his Saboti moment. I couldn't even save a single child. What was your favorite and least favorite part of the chapter? BTW, happy Halloween. My favorite and least favorite part. 1 second. We got some streamer stuff there. I hope the dogs don't take it down. Hold on. Hey, baby, you mind closing door? Thanks, baby. Yep. Oh, sorry. Favorite and least favorite part. Harley, out. Yeah, just close it and then he'll probably get the idea. Let him out? Yeah, go. Thanks. Least favorite... I don't think I have a least favorite part. What would be a least favorite? Like... I guess technically least favorite... You know what? If I have to pick a least favorite part, the whole Shiki, Gansui, Captain John situation, I feel like is kind of going to waste because I think there's more interesting stuff. If I would have just trying to show that Rock's parts are squabbling with one another, it's like, I guess that, you know, that's a cool thing to show. And it kind of shows like a difference between the rabble of the Rock's pirates versus the characters that eventually become Yonko and everything like that. Just a difference in focus. But I just feel like there's so much potential for more interesting stuff amongst them. Like, I don't really care. Like, I don't know who the fuck gives a fuck about Gansui. Like, we know nothing about him. Captain John, at least a name that we knew. Shiki, a character that I was personally very excited for. And it's basically reduced to, like, Shiki just trying to steal some cash. I guess it kind of makes sense because Shiki builds the largest fleet in the world after this. So maybe this kind of explains where he's able to get the funds to draw people to his side or something. But yeah, I guess if I have to pick a least favorite part... My favorite part, I think the reveal that, it's so much. The reveal of Rock's telling Emu that Davy Jones was the previous king of the world. I think that just that moment hits hard. It just puts so much story and context. It puts the story of Rocks into context. It puts the story of Blackbeard into far more interesting perspective. Like, it adds such a more interesting perspective to it. Reframes the entire character, recontextualizes the entire character, and then puts into context, for me at least, I believe, the entire story of One Piece, really, and what the Will of D, what happened in the Void Century, so much. But wait for next Tuesday's video for a greater breakdown of that. But I think that's, like, just a top-tier One Piece moment. Beyond that, I think Rock's tearing through the 3 Yonko is phenomenal action. I know people were complaining about God Valley not having action, but this is just back to back to back. Rocks versus Kaido, Big Mom, and then Whitebeard. And you can't tell me these panels don't hit. Like, that clash between Rocks and Whitebeard is probably the most crazy, like, destructive effect clash, like, in terms of sheer destruction clash that we've ever had in One Piece, because they just hit each other. They're not even attacking the mountain. They just hit each other. Just from attacking each other, the force from that destroys an entire mountain. That's kind of crazy. Like, we've never seen that shit in One Piece before. They basically level an island just from one clash. That's on a totally different level. I don't know. Like, so love that. And then the end is fucking amazing. Like, the climax. Just Rocks bearing down on Roger and Garp. I love Roger and Garp calling out Rocks. That is so fucking badass. The two of them calling out, like, that is so... this chapter is just so good. It's like, because I think any one of these individual moments would make the chapter like a 10 out of 10 for me. And it's like every single page is something really good. Clash piece at it again. But some things have to be clashes, because, like, I don't know what you want. Like, Rocks one-shots Kaido, one-shots Big Mom, Whitebeard gets a clash, you know? It's not like... It seems as though Whitebeard probably can't hold out that much longer against Rocks, you know? So we got some Rocks just taking people out, and then we got a good clash. I think that's I don't know. I think that's good shit. To me, I just really like that. I would obviously, if we got more, like a full chapter of choreography, but I take this. Like, I think that, like, next chapter we'll get even more, probably, you know? And you said, Happy Halloween, thank you. Yeah, this is, it's supposed to be Jack Skellington. I'm missing the, we're going as Jack and Sally, we're hosting the Halloween party, but we're doing, Jack and Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas, so... I'm supposed to have like a neck thing, but I think I left it in the car or something, so I got to get that later. Mo, thanks to 2. Davey and Joy Boy, same person or different? Different. Wait for next Tuesday's video. Meek, thanks to 2. Why do you think Davy Jones is riding Zanisha? I think we need more context. I think we need more context. I do think that Davy Jones was like a good character. So Davy Jones being on Zunisha, I think just makes sense. It might also just be like framing, like Oda framing. Fuck. Maybe Davy Jones commanded Zunisha to do that shit. Maybe it involved the voice of all things. Maybe that makes Momonosuke a fucking complicated character. It's really fucking hard to say. Let me speculate for a second. Let me speculate here, okay? I wonder if it's tied to Toki. I wonder if shit's tied to Toki. Random theory, okay? What if... Here we go. What's going on? What if... you want to just take the boxes out? Okay. Yeah. What if Toki is a princess from the Ancient Kingdom time? Let's say princess of the Ancient Kingdom. She goes in the future, has a kid. Therefore, Momonosuke is essentially like direct bloodline back to the royalty of the Ancient Kingdom, like Davy Jones. You know, if that's the case, then that would explain why Momonosuke is now able to command Zunisha. 1 second. Hold on. We just got so much to catch up on here. Okay, Red and Silver 741, thanks for the 5. Thoughts on how Roger / Garp versus Dami Rock's fight will go? What do you want / need to see? How does Emu leave God Valley? So, I talked about this. Okay, I'm just going to say this. First, let's get stream likes up to 150. Second, I've been talking about this. I might be wrong. I don't know. But to me, things are setting up for exactly what I thought, which is Emu wants to kill everyone on God Valley, right? The fact that Emu ultimately has to use his ancient weapon, Uranus, to destroy God Valley, which is what everything seems like it's heading towards, right? It's going to be wiped off the map somehow, means that something goes wrong here, which means that Roger and Garp are able to drive back both Rocks and Emu himself, right? Second, I said that I believe Roger will have to step up and have a hockey bloom in order to protect his crew. What does this chapter establish? This chapter establishes that Rayleigh is very concerned about Roger. Rayleigh's very concerned. He's sensing all the shit that's going on. He's like, Roger's still back there. It's reiterated multiple times. Rayleigh's worried about Roger. Rayleigh's coming back. Hopefully Gaban's coming back, I believe, right? And Roger even says, I'm going to protect my crew. Everything is set up for a Roger hockey bloom here. Because Rayleigh and Gaban, no disrespect to them, if they show up here, either Emu's going to be a problem for them or Rox is going to be a problem for them. Okay? Either way, they might be in over their heads. How I believe that the fight with Roger and Garp versus Rox will go, I think that they might just be able to together 2v1 get the better of him. And then I think it comes down to Emu, who's still just standing right there and has made it clear that he wants them dead. I think Emu goes after... someone's going after Roger's crew. Okay? That's going to happen, I personally think. Okay? I think all the things are set up for that. I think that leads to what we were told happens. Hockey bloom. We weren't told that, but it's suggested or whatever, right? I think that leads to hockey bloom. That's what Garp literally talked about in the past. I think that sends Emu home. Same as Joy Boy. And then I think Emu uses Uranus. I think it's all set up for that. So I think we just see. Joseph eBay, thanks for the 2. Don't worry, I got you more chat next Tuesday video. Man, it's not my fault that next Tuesday's video is so pertinent to so many people's questions. Let's get stream likes up to 150 real quick. Vinny, thanks for the 3. Chapter got Morge to drip the fuck out today. No, it's a fucking Halloween. It's a Halloween costume. Little Dragon 21, thanks for the 2. It's just missing the thing that goes around the neck. Jack Skellington. Little Dragon 21, thanks for the 2. Kuma's Hands of Liberation moving fate. I love this moment for Kuma. Love this moment for Kuma. Because it's just like, it adds greater meaning to what his goal was at God Valley, which was like, I'm just going to try and save as many people as he can. And in 1096, we cut away from that during Kuma's flashback, and we're just told that he did. But now actually getting to see the God Valley incident and seeing Kuma like not only like saving so many people, but actually in really clutch and important moments, saving people that really like Kuma's dedication to just saving as many people as he can indiscriminately, right? that pays off because that's going to set in motion the wheels that will lead to the liberation of the world, right? That's beautiful shit. Drink water, Peggy's leg, thanks to the 5. Eris to Rocks, sorry you had to fight, you weren't ready yet. Teach, we're not ready to fight you yet, red hair. Look, I'm always going to respect Rocks' angle a little bit more because the difference is simply because Rocks knew he needed to get stronger to fight Emu. He needed the devil fruit and everything, right? Rocks I'm always going to respect more because Rocks ultimately, even though this is where the point of contrast comes in, and why Oda's whole route with Rocks and the contrast with Blackbeard is so fucking brilliant. It just shows all of the noble qualities that Rocks has, it shows all the noble qualities that Blackbeard is lacking. Because on the one hand, Rocks knows he's not ready to fight Emu, right? He knew he's not ready to fight Emu. He knew it's too early, right? But Rocks went in anyway. He even tells Harold before going into God Valley, he's like, I have a feeling that this is a bad idea. I have a feeling that it's going to lead to a bad fate for me, right? Rocks says that. He knows going in that this is not according to his plans. He shouldn't be here. But he does it because his wife and child are more important. He's willing to throw all of that away. He says all of that to Harold before going in. So even though Rocks isn't ready, he'll fight, and he will go down swinging when it comes down to it because he's willing to put other things on the line rather than his perfect plan, right? And One Piece rewards people who act like that because Rocks doing so, it does set in motion, like Rocks throwing down the gauntlet and having this battle, it sets in motion even though Rocks himself won't take down Emu. It sows the seeds for all these other characters, Roger, Whitebeard, Garp, even fucking Kaido, Big Mom, Blackbeard even, like all of these characters to one day, they're gonna create their legacies that will lead to the fall of Emu and everything like that, right? But Blackbeard's not like that. Blackbeard's sticking to his plan. He will run from any fight that he does not feel overwhelmingly confident he can win, and he will betray whoever he needs to betray. He has no loyalties, no bonds, no ties, because the only thing that matters to him is executing the plan to become king of the world. And you know what? There's logical reason to it, because it's possible that Blackbeard even grew up learning of Rocks' downfall, right? Think about that. Blackbeard could learn from his mom. Essentially, I'm sure she won't phrase it this way, but this might be Blackbeard's takeaway. Eris would essentially tell Blackbeard what she told Rocks today, that, you know, your father, he had this plan to take down Emu, avenge the Davy clan, become king of the world, etc., but he threw it away. He fought before he was ready because he had to save us. He had to come to the island to save you and me, Teach, right? Blackbeard's takeaway is likely 1, he wants vengeance for his father, and 2, he's not going to make the same mistakes that his father made, which is that he's not going to do anything before he's ready. He's going to be very meticulous, and he kind of cuts out his heart, metaphorically speaking, in that he's not going to let bonds or loyalty or anything like that slow him down. He's not going to fall in love. He's not going to have crewmates that he really cares about. He's just going to be a man on a mission and do whatever it takes. I think that's so fucking interesting the more you think about it. So it makes me, when I say I don't respect Blackbeard, it's in the sense that he's supposed to be the villain that we don't view as morally good as Rocks, because the idea is like, the tragedy of Rocks is essentially what was lost in translation between father to son. But it makes Blackbeard such a more fascinating villain. It's amazing. Just the writing is so good right now. This is so fucking good. Let's get the stream up to 150. And the best part about this chapter, my favorite part about the chapter, you know what? My favorite part is that there's not a break next week. That's my favorite part. It's so good right now. I think this is the best One Piece has been to me since Marineford. Depending on the way it plays out, I mean, it's hard to top Marineford because that was a storyline that focused on our hero, our main character. But this is legitimately, this whole storyline has been the best One Piece has been for me since Marineford. Keenan, thanks for the 10. Considering the fact that based on chapter 1152, this all has to tie into Harold's death and how he became so adored somehow, how much total flashback do you think we have left? How much total flashback? That's a really good question, man. I think that, because Oda's actually taking more time with God Valley than I thought. Because now we're at 64. So God Valley started at 1160, right? 1164, I feel like the whole battle might wrap at around 1165. So then If the battle wraps around 1165, I think that... Shit. Yeah, maybe 1170 is when the whole flashback wraps. That might be possible. Maybe 1170. Because, 11... I don't know. Maybe 1170. Let's say 1170. Maybe the whole flashback wraps at 1170. Because I think the battle can't... Like, we can't leave God Valley, I think, for another 2 chapters at least. Even if the fight ends next chapter... It still feels like we have a little bit of fallout to, like, how does God Valley get erased and everything. So I think we got at least 2 more chapters. So at least 1164, 1165, maybe half of 1166. Then we can transition over to the Harold Loki stuff, I think. Little Dragon 21, thanks for the 5. Garp and Rogers' hockey release in preparation for Rocks was amazing, and the tension is immense. The tension is just so... It's all so fucking good right now. This is the setup for the highest level battle we've ever had in One Piece. Because right now, Rocks is amped, right? Rocks is above his normal level. And people already thought that Rocks was the strongest dude on God Valley. Like, this is just fucking insane. Jacob B says, this is peak One Piece and by far the best backstory, no doubt. This is probably set to be the best backstory just because it's everything, right? Like, there's backstories that are more so based on pure emotional storytelling, right? That have important real-world events, like obviously Ohara, Kuma's flashback, right? And then there's flashbacks that are more so renowned for the dramatic real-world events that, like, the lore and the hype stuff that happens. Like, I would say the Odin flashback, it's more so renowned for the time that Odin spent on Whitebeard and Roger's ship, and, like, Roger laughed and getting the laugh tail and everything like that. Although people, of course, really like Odin's boiling scene. I would say, in general, it's not viewed as like people tend to fixate on the cool stuff, right? I feel like this flashback is the first time in One Piece that we're really getting the perfect blend of both, in that it has an amazing emotional character storyline with Rocks that still has not reached its conclusion. And then it's going to transition into the tragedy of Harold, and then the tragedy of Loki, right? So we've got a lot of emotional storytelling here, right? With other things peppered in, like Dragon's story, right? So it's already doing a phenomenal job of that. But then it's also, in terms of, like, hype and world lore reveals, it blows everything else in One Piece out of the water. Like, it's not even close. Like, we all thought that in the Odin flashback, when we're getting the Roger and Whitebeard stuff, that was really exciting, that we're getting so much. That was, like, not even a fraction of what we're getting here in the entire Rocks God Valley flashback, you know? I think overall, looking at it overall, this might be Oda's most... We might end up looking back on it as Oda's most well-rounded flashback in One Piece. And Oda is a master of flashbacks. You could argue that's his greatest strength. I don't know. Kravitz, thanks a lot. Emu doesn't know Teach and Eris are alive. Their hockey vanished, and he saw an advanced Conqueror's hockey explosion that caused fire. Kuma is the reason Teach became a warlord. Oh, man. That's such a good point. Phenomenal point, man. Great point. Let's get the stream likes up to 200 real quick. Yeah, Emu might think that the job was done. Great point. You might think that the Davy clan was eradicated. Kuma is such a cool character. You know what's so cool? I love, for some reason, maybe this is just a general thing, but especially in One Piece, I love that, you know, we spend a lot of time with certain characters, and then you gain even greater appreciation for them when you see them in other character stories. That's happening a lot for me right now with Kaido and Big Mom, because, like, you know, by the end of Wano, I didn't really like either of them that much. But I'm liking him more now, just in the context of other stories. Kuma I obviously already really, really liked, but it's cooler seeing him, on top of all that, just make such clutch appearances in these other stories. You know, like, it's really special. Oda's really done something special here with all of the storytelling that's taking place in the final saga. Zolden, thanks for the 10. Even though, if I had to bet, I would say Joy Boy is a Monkey D. I think it'd be cool if he was a Gold D to really push the idea that Ace was the chosen one and the Monkey D ancestor could be a silly character. That's an interesting idea. I feel like it is going to be a Monkey D. And I think it'd be cool if maybe the port guest line is... maybe the port guest line was like Joy Boy's first mate or something like that. Bassam El Madawi, thanks for the 5. Lukewarm take, but the God Valley flashback has highlighted for me how underwhelming the entire Straw Hat crew is. Oda really stifled their growth. Just believe. Just believe a little bit longer. The Straw Hat crew may feel underwhelming right now, but Enies Lobby exists. Alabasta exists. The Straw Hat crew is real. They're fighting. They're in there. They're fighting to come out. They're fighting a battle. They're trying to come out. They're trying to be themselves again. And I believe that Oda's got plans to do that. I believe that he's saving all of his best character writing. It just feels like all of the best character writing, all of the best ideas he's had for all of these characters are being saved for this saga. I think that, like, even before we did the flashback began, I'd already put out many videos and many reviews and streams talking about how it feels like Elbaf is finally a more Straw Hat focused storyline, right? I think that it's gonna play out like that. Taptia Treviso, thanks for the 2. Rocks is Teach's father. Didn't hit until Davy's info. It does add a whole other layer. It adds a really, really powerful layer. I was one of the people that felt like Rocks being Blackbeard's father was almost a little too straightforward and, like, when we first got it. But now I appreciate it so much. Meek, thanks for the 5. Oh, yeah. Have you seen the SBS yet? Kind of a nothing burger. Yeah, I saw the SBS. I skimmed it. I didn't think anything crazy. Dut, thanks for the 7. I really liked how Big Mom got mad at Rocks for hurting Kaido and saying they were all allies compared to how Sengoku said they considered each other. It's tricky because I think Sengoku got bits and pieces right. Because, like, Kaido and Big Mom did get really pissed at each other. You know, they were at each other's throats. They did try to kill each other and shit, you know? I think Sengoku and, like, Garp and Roger did fight Rocks. So, like, a lot of pieces are true. A lot of little pieces are true. It's just that, like, not everything, you know? It's just like Oda sold us part of the story because he wanted to hide the full thing, you know? It's so crazy to me that I still think this is one of Oda's greatest feats, storytelling-wise, that when he hyped up the God Valley incident, we all thought that was the craziest, most exciting story ever, and we're like, can you imagine if Oda shows us that? I think it is just so fucking amazing that the actual God Valley incident is so much more epic even than what Oda painted it out as. Like, it's beyond what he, like, the trays, I think in One Piece there's a lot of times where what's teased is not nearly as good as what Oda actually has in mind. There's so many times, like, One Piece is at its best when Oda surpasses our expectations, which he is very good at. But there are a lot of times where it's like something is teased and it's like the classic example I'd say is like in Wano, Oda really teased like how the Odin and Kaido, like that whole incident, right? Like he literally built up to it with like the legendary battle or some shit like that, and then it's a thing where it's just like it's one panel of Odin cutting Kaido, right? It's basically the same as Odin cutting that pig, you know? In actuality, in the entire Odin flashback, the only thing that was really dramatic, remarkable storytelling was the boiling moment, right? But the rest of the flashback is very pedestrian and isn't very emotionally moving, you know? I'm not counting the Roger Whitebeard stuff. I'm saying just all of the Odin Scabbard stuff, right? And Wano had really teased, like it had the Scabbards cry so many times about like how, like it really built up how dramatic this flashback is going to be. And it's like, well, we got one good moment, like a good scene out of it, but not really, you know, comparable to a lot of One Piece's other really great flashbacks, you know? So I think there's a lot of times in One Piece that Oda can tease something that's just not, ultimately doesn't end up being as exciting. The God Valley incident is not that. It's way bigger than we thought. Way bigger than we thought. Orseliath, thanks for the 10. Feels like Davy Jones might be more like Orochi, given Oda's explanation of him, SBS 38, though that was IRL legend. Also, his name is Davy D. Jones. Doesn't mean that the Will of D started elsewhere? Maybe. That's a good point. But maybe, I think the D might just represent a certain, a certain, I feel like it might be a moniker, kind of like the X on the Straw Hats, that like a certain group all agreed to have, you know? That's my thought, but I think that Davy Jones was actually like a good king, I think there's a lot of signs that suggest that he was actually a good king. I think looking at Blackbeard is supposed to be like, obviously Blackbeard is that will gone bad and bastardized, but I think that's also supposed to, that goes with the themes of the story as well, right? So just wait for Tuesday's video. I get into it in a lot more detail. Dan Ianon, thanks for the 10. Vander D. Decken looking for Poseidon and mysteriously went mad and threw his crew out of the Flying Dutchman. Is that true? I gotta reread Vander Decken shit. Also, celestial bodies may be needed to be aligned at Laughdale. Look up Aristotle's 56 spheres. I don't know. I think that there's certain other things. I don't think it's celestial bodies that need to be aligned. I think it's things that are already in One Piece that have been talked about that need to come together for the will of all of that shit, will of D, etc. to play out. Empty Mind, thanks for the 5. I have one particular theory that I think is really interesting, but I'm saving that. Empty Mind, thanks for the 5. Barbell is the man marked by flames, being able to create whirlpools as a fish, the flame hair, and he probably saves Kid in the sea, and since Kid knows who he is. If Barbell is the man marked by flames, he's not even a man, right? Wouldn't, like, if Barbell was the guy, wouldn't the fact that he's a fishman be, like, more advertised instead of the fact that he's marked by flames? Because isn't that the more standout characteristic? Or at least wouldn't it be the fishman marked by flames? Like, you know? Because it sounds like marked by flames, it sounds like that's the most notable thing about them, but it's like, it would also be helpful if we knew he's a fishman and not just, like, a human man. So I don't know. Maybe it is him. I can't say it's not possible. Anything's possible. I'd just be disappointed a little bit, but who knows. Drink water, Peggy's leg, thanks for the 5. Prediction for next chapter. Sommers tries to stop Gaban and Rayleigh on the way to Roger, and Gaban one-shots Sommers. That's very possible. Sommers just being the dude that gets trashed by the rock spirits over and over is really funny. Justin Holland, thanks for the 5. Scary thought, but what if Kuma sacrifices himself to save Elbaf from Emu's Uranus and damages it, buying more time for Emu's enemies to prepare? Man, I would like that. It's just, the tricky thing is, like, I feel like Kuma has already written a really, really good death scene. Death of his consciousness, right? I feel like we already got, like, an amazing send-off for Kuma. So I'm just not going to feel anything if Oda does it again, because I think the montage was kind of already perfect. So it's kind of like doing a character's death twice is just, I don't know. It'll be like if he did Saul's death again, but it would be cool. To Pure Treviso, thanks to 2. I feel like Blackbeard has an extra soul with Advanced Conquerors Hockey. Yeah, I would love to see that. If Blackbeard's got an extra soul inside him with some Advanced Conquerors Hockey, but it's hard to say how that even be possible. KSA Sullyman, thanks a lot. Could Davy Jones be the king of the Prosperous Kingdom? And was Davy Jones the king of the previous world, or was he not, since Emu denied it? No, I think Davy Jones was the king of the Ancient Kingdom, which is essentially king of the world because the Ancient Kingdom was the predominant power of the world. I think Rox is gassing up his predecessor a little bit, which is like, that guy was the actual top dog in the world before you came along, right? Random guy 123, thanks for the 5. Emeth said that he regrets that he couldn't make Joy Boy king. What do you think the implications of this are? Oh, that's a real... I think it might be that... so my belief is, I feel like Davy Jones was... A lot of it makes sense after you watch Tuesday's video, so I almost don't want to answer this right now. But that is a point that follows very well to me, which is... I feel like the order of events are Davy Jones being king of the Ancient Kingdom, Joy Boy is a pirate during this period of time, okay? Emu usurps, Joy Boy returns to fight on behalf of the Ancient Kingdom, much like Odin, right? And similar to, because Davy Jones has already fallen, right? In a similar way, Odin was like, he'd returned to his homeland, right? Basically saying like, I didn't plan on being king. I didn't plan on being shogun. He literally tells this to Orochi. I didn't plan on being shogun, but now I see that this is my responsibility, and I'm here to do that, right? So I personally think that that's what we're seeing. Davy Jones, original king. It's possible Joy Boy, relative, maybe heir in line or something like that. Joy Boy, much like Odin, fucks off to go be a pirate, right? Emu usurps the Ancient Kingdom, right? Usurps Davy Jones, begins his assault on the Ancient Kingdom. a lot of this becomes much more clear on Tuesday's video, because right now it will just sound like rambling. But what you just said actually fits perfectly with the timeline that I'm thinking. I think Joyboy returns to basically fight as the champion on behalf of the Ancient Kingdom. Maybe even accepting the responsibility that he needs to step up to become king after Davy Jones has fallen. And obviously Joyboy's faction loses. Nerve and V-Maker, thanks for the 10. At this point, I don't see much opportunity for Rayleigh and Gaban to see any action. It's a shame we don't get to see what they're capable of at their peak. I disagree, because I feel like in this chapter, Oda highlights multiple times. It's several times, actually. It's I think 3 separate moments in the chapter, which is first, come on, Rayleigh, the island's toast. Rayleigh's concerned, is Roger going to be safe, right? So Rayleigh's concern is Roger. And then I think we have again, maybe it's just 2 times? No, and then again, we have the Roger pirates trying to reach Roger and being like, Roger, where are you? And then Roger saying, I'm fine, right? And then lastly, Roger in the final showdown saying, like, I'm going to protect my crew. I won't let you go after my crew. I think all the setup is there for Rayleigh and Gaban to return and for Joyboy to have to, or for Roger to have to protect his crew. I think everything's set up for that personally. Because the concern is there. They keep reiterating that, like, we are worried about Roger, and Roger's trying to be like, get out of here, guys, like, let me handle it. But I doubt that they would just accept that. Just based on what we know of them and based on what we know of Zoro and Sanji. Hold on. Yeah. So to me, that follows. Julian Reed, thanks for the 5. I'm excited for the fight, but it is the last reason I think it's very likely is because everything that's happening in this storyline in God Valley, it plays directly into the Elbaf arc, right? A lot of the themes tie in. The framing of the concept, the framing of the villains, the overall conflict, etc. It ties into what's going on in Elbaf right now. And in Elbaf, one of the last things that's being really focused on in the arc is the idea of, like, the wings of the king, right? I don't think it's coincidence that this is the arc where we're meeting Gaban. Gaban seems to be the mentor figure to the Straw Hats in this arc. And he's basically imparting wisdom to the crew about, like, this is what the wings of the king are supposed to represent. The story, like, Elbaf repeatedly talks about, like, Roger having 2 wings that he could rely on, etc. I think that with everything playing into everything connecting to the Elbaf storyline, I think naturally we are going to see Rayleigh and Gaban. Hopefully, you never know, but I think we will see Rayleigh and Gaban make an appearance. And maybe they're not going to do anything crazy, like they're not going to defeat Emu or anything like that, but I think they will be there to back up Roger, and I think we will get to see a little bit of what they do. Obviously, the level is really high here, right? The level of strength that we're dealing with is kind of crazy, because it's like fucking Whitebeard couldn't really hang, Whitebeard obviously not quite at his prime, but the other thing I'd say is that I don't know if Whitebeard's down and out for the count, because there's still potential for, like, that Garling Whitebeard matchup to happen, but I think that he wasn't able to block Rocks from progressing, It was something like, are we in your way, Rocks? And then Rocks kind of powers through. Let's get the stream likes up to 200 real quick, because we're almost there. Okay. Continuing on. Hold on. Oh my god, we got so much. Julian Reed, thanks for the 5. I'm excited for the fight, but it's hard to be hype when you realize the tragic emotions of all characters going through right now. Oda's amazing. Yeah, that was like a focal point of what I was talking about in my chapter review. It's just like what Oda's concocted here is such a masterful mix of emotions. Because on the one hand, Roger and Garp, like, taking in that deep breath and just yelling and calling out with, like, all of their hockey, like, Rocks, come out here, we're gonna beat your ass. Knowing, like, Roger and Garp's previous dynamic, oh my god, this flashback is gonna hit so hard reading all from start to finish. But calling out Rocks, knowing Roger and Garp's whole dynamic, their whole past dynamic, oh my god, and the anime will be fixed by the time we get there, right? Like, the anime is gonna have really high. No, I think Egghead's been really good for the anime so far. But just knowing that, like, now it'll be seasonal, so the production quality will be even higher. I'm I'm looking forward to a day where I can just sit down and binge the entire Rock's flashback in one go. That's going to be so fucking phenomenal. Anyway, this is genuine. This is the most I'm so excited for One Piece right now. This is all of this is just so good. Like, anyway, the concoction of emotions that Oda's put together here. It's like Roger and Garp having this really hype moment of them just calling out the big bad, and then the big bad arriving, and it's like, this is so exciting, but at the same time, he's not a big bad. Like, he's begging them to kill him, and this is actually the hero that we've been following this entire flashback so far, and now we're seeing him as a fallen hero, now turned into a villain for the two characters who are basically set to succeed him, right? Roger and Garp, the other two legends of this generation, right? They're fighting against him. It's just such a complex web of emotions. It's really, like, on the one hand, it feels so epic, so hype, so much aura, whatever. At the other hand, it feels so tragic, so deeply, fundamentally wrong. It's so good. Muhammad Asan Haji, thanks for the 2. Why Blackbeard inherits Davy's will and Rox doesn't? I don't know what that means exactly. I think that they're all carrying down Davy's will. It's just Blackbeard is carrying it on in a bit more of a evil manner, I suppose, than Rox, with a few less morals and code of honor to stick to rein him in. Colin Parker, thanks for the 2. How am I supposed to be hyped for Usopp after this? Because I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The Straw Hat when Oda chooses to give him character writing, the Straw Hat that consistently, like, when he is given character writing, Usopp always outshines the rest of the Straw Hats in character writing. Any arc where Oda actually gives Usopp some shit, he's the best Straw Hat to write around. Because he's the most human, the most flawed, you can do the most with him. So if this is a storyline that Oda's been saving for Usopp for a long time, I think it'll be worth it. King G, thanks for the 2. The real question is, how does Mihawk fit into this? We can talk about that after. We can talk about that after this whole thing plays out. Dick So Small, I piss on the balls, thanks for the 10. I think Reversi needs a negative emotional response, something that can compel great joy, like Sanji whipping up a character's favorite food, or Brook's music, or Nika's heartbeat can reverse the pieces back. I wonder if Brook's music, because Brook is, that's a good point. Brook's music has been Brook has been highlighted as an important character for Elbaf, right? This connection to Gunko and everything like that. I think Brook's going to be important there. I personally think Brook's going to send Emu back in Elbaf because it's just too early for Luffy to be able to beat him. All right, so I think that we're going to see... oh, shit, what if Loki gets Dami reversied and then it's like the Straw Hat crew versus Loki? Like, that'd be pretty cool, right? Because, like, people talked about how that could be a parallel to Onigashima. Or not Onigashima, sorry, Thriller Bark. So much potential. Yeah, but I do think that ultimately the way to send Emu back in Elbaf will be Brook basically... sending... Yeah, Brook. I think Brook's music, and I think that's why Oda wrote the connection with Gunko. But in terms of Dami Reversi in general, I don't know. That's possible. Drink water, Peggy's leg, thanks for the 5. Kaido, after getting betrayed by Rocks, Reversied, pirates betray each other. Poor Kaido, if only he understands. Yeah, I hope that that's not the reason he has that belief. But the thing is, like, you know what? Even if he does have that belief, even if this is the place that he got that belief from, I guess it's not the biggest deal in the world, because that didn't even affect any of his character decisions or anything like that in Wano. It was just like a one-off line that he said. If anything, it felt like, oh, that's an interesting philosophy you have. Could we, like, how's that going to affect the Wano story? Like, why are you bringing this up? Why is Oda having the character bring this up? What does it mean for the Wano storyline and its ideas? And the answer was, it doesn't mean anything, because it literally is never relevant. Kaido never talks about loyalty or jack shit again. It's just like a random one-off line. So it becomes kind of bizarre, but it's kind of fitting almost then. It's like, well, the basis for it was kind of like just his captain seemingly attacking him, I guess. Because it doesn't even feel like it sets up things very well, like pirates will betray... It's like pirates will abandon you, I thought. Is it abandon you or betray you when they're going to lose? It doesn't feel like this is an abandoning moment even. I just don't know if this makes that much sense as being the basis for that belief. But at the same time, when Kaido said that in Wano, it just turned out to be such a nothing statement in the grand scheme of things that it's almost like, who even gives a shit? On the flip side, I think Kaido and Big Mom's hatred for one another becomes very logical and well-founded after the things that we learn in God Valley. So I think that's at least like a big plus. Oda did well with that for sure. Tao, thanks to the 2. Hope my, like, I'll say to this day, one of the things that I thought was frustrating was the big reveal behind Inuarashi and Nekomamushi's hatred for each other. Because it was built up so much in Zou as, like, this, like, literally cats and dogs. Like, they just hate each other. Can't even be awake at the same time. Like, such a fierce rivalry between the two. And then it's like, where did it start? Like, why? And, like, Oda plays up the mystery. He's like, why did it start? What happened? And then you get to Wano. We get through the whole Oden flashback. And it's like, it's the most random, offhand little line. Like, Nekomamushi says something like, we did it. And then they didn't actually do it. You know, Oden's killed or whatever. And then it's like a conflict that happens in the background. Like, there's like 2 little speech bubbles in the background of like Inuarashi being like, you shouldn't have said that or something. Okay. And then that's it. And then it's played up in the modern day as though there was some like great incident that really caused their falling out. But in actuality, it was just like a lot of rushed storytelling for the Scabbards in Oden's flashback, because it just feels like so weak that it's like, okay, this whole conflict that's the centerpiece of Zou is just based off of like a life and death moment where like Inuarashi was maybe like a little bit excited. Like the Straw Hats have shit like that all the time, where Usopp will say something like, we did it or something, and then we didn't actually do it. You know, like that's it. It just feels like such a weak basis for them to hate each other forever. Anyway, Tao, thanks for the 2. Hype my Kuma saving Eren/Teach came true. The GOAT. Oh shit. Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, you're right. Wait, shit. Hold on a second. Hold on. Kuma saving Eren/Teach came true. Yeah, you were right. Crovis, thanks a lot. If God values peak since Marineford, is Elbaf greater than Egghead arc? So far, yeah, for me. Egghead is a phenomenal story for its side characters. But I would say so far, like, I think that Egghead did have some weaker areas. I think particularly during the whodunit section where they're trying to find out, like, with York, I think Egghead was really bad for the Straw Hats. I think it's the weakest arc for the Straw Hats in, like, all of post-time skip. It was just very good for the side characters. But this has been phenomenal for the side characters. Amazing backstory so far. Just does so much for so many of these legendary figures. And then I think the storytelling for the Straw Hats has been a lot better. And I don't think Elbaf has had any weak moments aside from the Sol being alive thing. But to be fair, that was already an Egghead moment, and that was essentially confirmed in Egghead that Sol's alive. Taptio Treviso, thanks for the 10. In 1117, Vegapunk said, among the D, there was a Mo. Does he mean that there was a monarch, and that is why Blackbeard had that reaction, because it wasn't a traitor reveal, it was a true king reveal? Oh, maybe. Maybe. I totally forgot about that. That's a really good point. Very good point. Interesting. Gunner455, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 29 months. Morge, what is that outfit? Really, it's Halloween. We're in Halloween mode right now. The outfit doesn't look complete because I've only got on this thing. I'm Jack Skellington, but I'm supposed to have other shit on. I just didn't really have time to find the rest of the items and put it on, so it looks half-assed at the moment. Really hoping we might get a God Valley movie with the anime going seasonal. Also, have you seen the Chainsaw movie 10 out of 10? I disagree. I think the Chainsaw movie was 11 out of 10. But legitimately, I think, in my mind, 10 out of 10 was like, if it's like a perfect adaptation, that's a 10 out of 10. It is more than, it's better than the manga version. It's legitimately better. It's so good. It finally captures the essence of what makes Chainsaw Man, brings it to the screen, and then has so much creative directorial decisions that actually elevate it from what it was in the manga. Like, that actually make it even better. More artistically substantive, more creative visual decisions, imagery, all of that stuff. It's just, there's no words for that. God Valley, yeah, maybe we could get a God Valley movie, because, like, ultimately Toei's going to want to do whatever makes it the most money. And movies are amazing paths to make a shit ton of money. I wonder if Toei might be worried that making a movie out of the not the Straw Hats might not do as well, because I've heard that in general the anime has never done as well anytime it doesn't feature the Straw Hats. So I don't know if that's true or not. But yeah, maybe it's possible. Because if they start production right now, I don't know. I need more insight into how production teams work or whatever. But it's possible, right? Sorry. Damian Wright, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 26 months. 26 months. Shout out to the Pirate King podcast, everybody. If you want to get my hour-and-a-half long podcast that I do every month, wherein you submit questions. You submit questions about anything. One Piece, other anime, other manga, real life, movies, TV shows, whatever. Anything you want, you submit the questions. I go through all of them, every single question, and answer them very in-depth. More in-depth than I can on stream, because I'm just not tight on time for those podcasts. So the Pirate King podcast submissions for the month are open right now. If you're a Pirate King tier member, then definitely go check them out. If you are not a Pirate King tier member, then try it out, and you get access to, obviously, this upcoming month's podcast, where you can submit questions, and you get access to, 20-something previous podcasts. Also, super important shout-out. All of the artwork behind me right now is going away as of tomorrow. Literally. This is not a joke. This is not a drill. Wait, not tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Not tomorrow. But it is about to go away. It is about to go away because as soon as next Tuesday's video hits, we are swapping lines to a new line. A new line of posters. There's a new collection coming out next month. This next month. So don't quote me on this. These might be going out literally tomorrow at the start of November. If not tomorrow, then this Tuesday. So they're almost out. This is the last window. I don't actually know just yet if the artist is trying to do the swap tomorrow, or if we're trying to do the swap in the first Tuesday of the month. So, but yeah, get these posters while you can. I just pinned them. This is the end of the month, basically. End of the month shout out. Once November gets rolling, we've got a new line of posters. So if you want these, get them right now. We've got great deals. You can buy 2, get 2 free, or you can get the entire thing at a huge discount. Anyway. So Damian Wright, if you've not gotten your Pirate King submission in for the month, then definitely get that in now. So Damian Wright says, we really need an explanation on who Dami Reversi works on when we cut back to the present, or it'll create a whole bunch of questions why certain characters are conveniently turned while not others. Yeah, it's kind of like, if Emu can just do that, there must be some limit. But if Emu can just do this, it's like, why doesn't he just do this whenever he wants? He even talks this chapter about how, I found, an Elbaf king that I can control and manipulate. But he doesn't Dami Reversi him till, what, 20 years later? Something like that? A bunch of years later, right? 24 years later? Yeah. It might just be Emu really not wanting to get his hands dirty, but it's like, if it's so easy for you, why not just do it? Justin Holland, thanks for the 5. If Frankie sees a glimpse of Uranus, that will inspire his upgrade for the Sunny/Straw tools. Yeah, I agree. I'm very excited. That's why I'm saying, people are too harsh on the Strahts right now. There's so many good Straht storylines set up in Elbaf. Frankie's at the fucking Atom Tree. He can make the Sunny into Pluton. There's good shit going on there, you know? 2, Odin and Joy Boy, Luffy steps up to responsibility. I don't know. Luffy always wants to do his own thing, what he feels is right, you know? So it's complicated. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 250. I think Luffy will ultimately play out the role that he needs to play, but he's not ever going to want to be the king or rule the world or anything. He will free the world because it'll be the right thing that he wants to do. Drinkwater, Peggy's leg, thanks to 2. Bagard joins Garp, Roger, Rayleigh, Gaban. That would be fucking hilarious. Empty Mind, thanks to the 2. Blackbeard harassing Bonnie makes what Kuma did sadder. Yeah. Blackbeard's kind of shitty. He kind of spits on, what everybody that helps him here, right? Let's see. Whitebeard, who takes him in and raises him, kills Whitebeard, right? Kuma's kid, right, captures her, harasses her. Roger's kid captures him, turns him into the world government. And then fucking, who else? Big Mom's kid captures her, right? And raids Big Mom's territory and destroys everything. But Blackbeard's actions just become shittier and shittier the more you think about, like the more context you have about, like, it's just kind of sad, because the world today is, like, the One Piece world today is so much more fractured than it once was, because, like, even in that era, all these characters that hate each other, right, like, the Rocks Pirates hate the Roger Pirates, they're all enemies with Garp, etc., right, but in reality, most of them are fine going and drinking at the same bar together, like fucking Shaki's bar. Even Roger and Garp, their hated rivalry, like, it's not that bad. It's not that serious. They see a bigger, like, they're bickering while they're fighting Emu, like, who did a better job. You know, like, the Kuja Pirates, they're all in love with the Kuja Pirates. The Kuja Pirates, like, messing with all of them. Like, all of these figures, the whole world was just, like, the whole pirate world, even the marine world, it was just kind of, like, more easygoing and tight back then. Everything changed after this shit because it feels like the world, as they knew it, like, the wool was pulled back from their eyes and they realized shit's serious. So now everyone went into the empire building business. Roger found the One Piece and everyone was like, we need the One Piece so that we can take over the world ourselves, etc. And then Blackbeard is, like, the worst example of what comes out of all this, and that, like, you caught a character that is singularly focused on getting the One Piece, taking over the world, but he's got none of his father's, like, redeemable qualities. It's really interesting. Really, really interesting. Oda's just done such a good job in so many ways with this flashback. Like, it's such a, like, this is, I really think this is peak One Piece. To me, this is as good as One Piece has ever been. I feel like this chapter is I would rate this as one of the all-time great One Piece chapters. The tricky thing is that, like, crazier stuff is yet to come, so it's technically a build-up chapter, but I don't know. So good. Empty Mind, thanks for the 2. No, we covered this. Corpus, thanks a lot. Morgan, my Mr. M, my Mr. right now. All right, don't know what to say about that. Omarwa, thanks for the 2. Maybe the reason Blackbeard can't sleep is God Valley nightmares. That's actually an interesting idea. That's actually really interesting. That'd be a cool twist. It's not some other soul magic or anything. It's very interesting. So so follow me on this, right? Because Blackbeard, okay. So some people say that Blackbeard can eat 2 fruits because he's a buccaneer, and buccaneers might have multiple souls or whatever, or like multiple, like a special body. Like, Vegapunk implied that there was something interesting or different about the way Kuma's soul and all of that stuff, or consciousness, whatever, worked. But then why is it that Rox felt that he could only eat 1 devil fruit? Because Rox said that there's 2 devil fruits he's looking for, but he doesn't say that he wants to eat both of them, you know? If he's a buccaneer, wouldn't he be able to do that? So then to me, there still has to be something different about Blackbeard, right? Aside from him just being a buccaneer. I figure. Obsidian Angel, thanks for the 5. Moo's world is incomplete because they're missing One Piece. Also, am I the only one who got that vibe that Moo has childish behavior? Yeah, that's the cool thing about Emu, which is like... And it's also one of the reasons I think Emu might not be the final villain now. I think it might be Blackbeard. I think that Emu has a lot of, like, threatening aura and everything because he's very powerful. But I feel like underneath that, we kind of got a glimpse. He's like a scared... He's like a child. I've seen some Japanese translators mention that the way Emu talks is somewhat childish. And 2, we saw how scared he got from Joy Boy's hockey and everything. I think that, like, underneath all of that godlike, all-powerful surface persona, there is a more, like, childish, like, petulant character that... It still feels fear and is still like easily triggered to some degree, you know? Remontada, thanks a lot. What are the Elbaf matchups? Dami, Reversi, Loki, Holy Knights, and Emu. I think, okay, so right off the bat, I think the one I feel personally confident about, that I think has a good shot of being true, is Usopp versus Killingham. Everything just lines up there because in a lot of storylines where Usopp plays a big role, like a very impactful role on the narrative, it's often Usopp being able to because Usopp's very weak, right? So Oda, to make Usopp impactful, Oda has to find a very high leverage point thing that Usopp can do, something that only he can do, but that has a huge ramification on the narrative in general, right? So, for example, Enies Lobby, it was only Usopp can snipe to save Robin, can snipe the soldiers from far away to save Robin. All the other struts are far away, right? So that was a high leverage thing. In Thriller Bark, Perona was basically this unstoppable force that none of the Strats, not Luffy, not Zoro, not Sanji, could deal with. So Usopp being the only one to be able to defeat her was a high leverage thing. And then the biggest example is, of course, Sugar, the classic example where it's like all of fucking Dressrosa is being oppressed, being controlled thanks to Sugar's abilities, right? The entire fucking Coliseum fighters are all turned into toys and everything like that. Usopp knocking out Sugar changes the entire arc. It removes Doflamingo's control, essentially. And then Usopp taking out Sugar again to save Luffy and Law was the other most clutch moment of the arc, right? So when I'm looking at Elbaf and knowing that Oda likes to find really high leverage moments for Usopp, moments where like even he as a weak character can do something that only he can do that can really save everybody, to me the thing that stands out is killing him. Because with killing him, it's the perfect storm, right? Killing him is responsible for pretty much almost the entirety of Elbaf's fall, right? Like, Sommers did some shit, Gunko obviously did some shit, but like, the entire nation of Elbaf was basically just run over thanks to Killingham's ability. This was before Emu even showed up. Like, the God's Knights actually did have... Emu's being too harsh on them, because the God's Knights actually did have things under control before Emu showed up. Emu just made it a sort of when it rains it pours situation, right? But Killingham had conquered Elbaf. Like, all of the giants were unable to fight back against Killingham's nightmare creatures, etc. Killingham just run over Elbaf basically solo. The key things there are basically, if you can take out Killingham, then that basically makes you the savior of the giants. I think Usopp is going to come out of this arc at looking like a big hero savior of the giants. So I think taking out Killingham is going to be big. But then two, on top of that, you just look at Killingham's abilities. They're fear-based, right? Usopp's whole thing that ties into Usopp's character, right? Like, what do you fear that's brought to life? It feels very Usopp setup-y, you know? Similar to a Perona situation, right? Just fighting your fears, yada yada, right? So just high leverage person to defeat. Killingham makes sense, right? Thematically makes sense. Usopp fighting fears, right? And then finally, Killingham is a ranged fighter. He's a sniper. He uses bows and arrows, right? It's not a traditional gun or anything like that, but it would be Usopp fighting another ranged fighter, a sniper type character, which is really cool. So in terms of actual combat matchup, it's also perfect. So I think Usopp versus Killingham, I think, is very likely. Looking at the rest, I know I'm taking a long time with this. I think Gunko is ultimately driven out thanks to Brook's music. I don't know if Gunko is going to be fighting other characters over the course of this, but I think Gunko will be driven out thanks to Brook's music. All right. We might get Zoro and Sanji versus Dami Reversi, Dory and Brogy. I think that's a fight that nobody really wants because it's just like, I don't think people respect Dory and Brogy that much anymore, even a Dami Reversi version of them. For the record, I think Dami Reversi, Dory and Brogy should be stronger than Zoro and Sanji are right now, but it's also just like, we don't respect them as villains. So my bigger hope is that maybe we get Dami Reversi Loki versus the Strats, or even Dami Reversi Luffy versus the Strats, kind of like as a parallel to Thriller Bark. I think that'd be really sick if we did get that. I don't know who defeats Sommers, because I like the idea of Robin, but people have talked about how Sanji would be like a fitting character to defeat Sommers because so many factors thematically. Sommers talking about love, how he is with women, yada yada. Sanji taking out Sommers would make a lot of sense. If Sanji gets Conqueror's Haki, that'd be a good character to debut it on. At the same time, defeating Sommers doesn't feel that hype because... defeating Sommers doesn't feel that hype because Sommers just also kind of sucks. Like, we've seen him defeated multiple times now, right? I think if just Gaban defeated him, then coming in to see Sanji defeat him is still hype. But now, I'd say in the span of like 10 chapters, we saw Sommers low diffed by old Gaban and then zero diffed by Rayleigh. Obviously, Rayleigh was a lot younger, right? But like, I'm not comparing the performances, but they both just basically pieced up Sommers pretty easily, you know? Okay. Whoa. Okay, I saw a really cool comment. I want to get to that in a second, but it's 2 comments down. It's from Keith Edge. Molly, thanks for the 5. It's insane how even after this God Valley / Loki flashback, we're going to come back to Loki fights, Luffy versus Emu, and whatever's happening at Marishua. Yeah, that's the really cool thing. I think people are forgetting because, like, there was similar talk during Egghead when we were cut away to the events at, you know, like Shanks versus Kid at Elbaf and the Hachinosu raid and, like, Sabo at Reverie. People were talking about how this is more exciting than what's going on at Egghead. But then when we actually cut back to Egghead, then we realized, like, how cool the setup actually is, and people were really excited because it's like, holy shit, it's like the Straw Hats versus the entire Davy back fight, plus Kizaru, plus Saturn, plus the Gorosei. Like, people just got really excited once we fully grasped the ramifications of what's going on at Egghead. I think the only reason people are a little disappointed, some people are a little bit disappointed by the climax of Egghead, was just the way that it wrapped up really fast. But the hype train for when we returned to Egghead actually had ramped up to a crazy all-time high. Keith Edge, oh my god, yeah, I forgot. This was the comment that sounded really good. Amazing point. Thank you for being a Yonko team member for 13 months. Everyone, listen up to Keith Edge. Blackbeard has multiple souls because his body is Davy Jones' locker. That's such a good idea. I feel like that's an amazing idea. I love that idea. That's potentially the perfect call. Because we know that Oda's drawing, like, lots of allusions to the myth of Davy Jones when he described him, right? And then Blackbeard being connected to him. I think that's an amazing concept. Carnage, thanks for the 5. What happens to Blackbeard after this? Being able to eat multiple fruits and not sleeping, how does that come about? Was he born like that? It's because his body's Davy Jones' locker. I'm just kidding. I'm obviously pulling that from what Keith Edge said, but that is really cool. Keith Edge, I'm going to write that down, and then if that ever makes its way into a video or something, you're going to get full credit. But awesome idea. Yeah, I think we'll get the secret. Somebody said not sleeping is because of PTSD from God Valley. I think that's interesting too. But there does need to be something that allows him to eat multiple devil fruits, because it sounded like Rox is his father, so they're related by blood, but Rox can't eat multiple devil fruits from what it sounded like. So it's not, I don't think it's just that he's a Buccaneer. Oh, this was suggested as soon as 11:59 leaks dropped. Oh man, I guess I'm behind on that one, but Keith Edge, I think that's a good idea still. King G, thanks for the 5. Doesn't this make Blackbeard the most Conqueror-like / determined? He forsakes all relationships and bonds in order to fulfill the will that he's inherited. No. Because that's like saying, that's like saying that any character that's shitty in terms of their pursuit of their ambition is a strong Conqueror's Haki user. Like, Don Krieg fucking threw away Jin and all of his crew and etc. because it furthers his ambition to become, like, he wanted to win the fight against Luffy. That's not what Conqueror's Haki tends to have anything to do with. Having a strong will means trying to do things that I don't want to, because people always get upset when I try to put labels on Conqueror's Haki, because they're like, well, what about this or what about this, etc. So I'm trying to do broad stroke stuff, right? But I would say one of the simplest things is that Conqueror's Haki users will do things, will take on challenges even when they're not guaranteed to work out and when they're not easy. Whereas Blackbeard tries to always go the most guaranteed and safe route. His whole journey is one big gamble, right? So to be fair, but compared to how other, like, actual Conqueror's Haki users go through the world, and like Rox is a great counterexample, or Dragon's a great counterexample, they're still willing to put their lives on the line in situations where it is more likely than not that they will die. Blackbeard does not do that. He avoids that. And he also tries to take the easy route for everything imaginable. He doesn't try to, if there's like strong opposition, he will back off and try and wait to try and find like an easier way to do it. That's generally not how Conqueror's Haki users have been portrayed to be. Gravis, thanks a lot. Luffy will get Dami Reversied mirroring his crew versus Oars with Luffy's shadow. It'll also mirror Nightmare Luffy. Also, Usopp can go ham because it's Luffy, like in Water 7. Ooh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Luffy getting Dami Reversied would be like an amazing moment in the series. I wonder if people would find it disrespectful to Luffy's character. Because I don't know if Oda would even disrespect Luffy like that. Because, like, at least with the Rocks, when it's happening, it's like this grand final moment of tragedy. But with Luffy, it's almost like might feel like just doing it to Luffy just to have a hype matchup, like turning Luffy into a mindless puppet just to have like a cool fight against his crew, which I don't know if Oda's going to treat him like that. I could see it happening to Loki. I don't know. It's tricky to say. If it I'm fully in support of it happening to Luffy, just because, you know, like, I don't need to see Luffy come out on top with every single situation, but I also want to feel like the character is treated with respect, you know? Because I think there's a big difference between, like, Luffy just losing a fight versus, like, having his free will taken from him. That's never happened in the story. I don't know. Lil Emu, thanks for the 5. Could Blackbeard be the type of Davy revenge child with all of their wills/souls in them? Oh, shit. Hold on, I gotta reload this. 1 second. 1 second. Okay. The Erish/Summon Circle connections make me wonder if witchcraft is involved. That's an interesting point. I don't know. There's too many questions. The more answers Oda gives, the more questions he creates. But that's an interesting idea. Madoka, thanks for the 5. Maybe best chapter post time skip. I want thoughts on the idea of a God Valley movie 2027-ish. Just imagine canon modern animated One Piece would go nuclear. It'd be so good. And the thing is, I feel like you really could get the whole God Valley story without, like that's one of the biggest things with movies, right? So, like, you generally want it to be like people can drop in without that much context and be able to watch. I think that's the case for the Chainsaw Man movie. It was the case for the Jujutsu Kaisen movie and for Mugen Train. The recent Demon Slayer movie, I think you need a lot of context before you can be dropped into. But the God Valley incident, like, as long as it starts with the Rock's flashback, I think that it could be a really good movie. I just don't know if Toei would go down that route unless Toei is choosing to go the seasonal route specifically because they're trying to plan ahead and start production on a movie on the side or something like that. I don't know. Because they must be seeing how much money these movies make, you know? Drink water, Peggy's leg, thanks to 2. Caribou's body is the real Davy Jones' locker. Yeah, that's also true. It's a good point. Mr. Saturn Lo-Fi, thanks to 5. It's interesting that Emu is referred to as the world, and Roger initially wanted to turn the world upside down. Dami Reversi literally flips people. That's a really good point. Also, let's get Streamlabs up to 250 real quick, because we're almost there. It's funny, because, like, back then, when we got that little flashback of Roger saying he wants to turn the world upside down, I think back then, a lot of people, because Roger still felt like a very mythic figure at that point in time, right? So it felt like, oh man, Roger, he really knows what's up. Like, he's got like some grand vision in mind. But then we progressed and we learned that no, Roger mostly just wanted to fucking like bum around and chase women. That's what he had in mind when he invited Rayleigh to join his crew. Just bum around on the seas, chase women. It wasn't until he was fucking 39 years old, so 20 years of that shit, that he was like, oh shit, there's actually something bigger I could be doing. All right, let's give this a shot. Let's try Rayleigh. That Lodestar shit, that shit that we read at Lodestar a year ago, maybe we should look further into that situation and see where that takes us. Maybe that wasn't actually just some random bullshit, but actually something pretty important. So I just think it's funny in retrospect. Dick so small I piss on my balls, thanks for the 5. I think Yami Yami is the Logia embodiment of the Abyss. That's a cool possibility. That's a good concept. Yeah, Oda really made Roger and Rayleigh's initial meeting seem like so special and destined and everything like that. But now we know it's just like, it was literally just like, I don't know, 2 stoners meeting up and being like, hey bro, like, what do you want to do? Nothing. What do you want to do? All right, fuck it. Let's get a fucking mystery machine and just sail around and like just be the biggest bums on the ocean. You know? Anyway. Carnage, thanks for the 10. If Blackbeard has the same plan as Rocks, shouldn't he be reaching out to Luffy to help him take down Emu? I think Blackbeard will try to steal Luffy's fruit to become both Joy Boy and Davy Jones, the ultimate D. So I think a big question mark is One, okay, there's several question marks there, right? So to begin with, right, let's start with this. To begin with, how much does Blackbeard actually know about Rox's former plan? I think considering Rox seems to have told Eris a lot, I imagine that Eris could tell Blackbeard a lot. So that seems pretty important that could happen there, right? So that seems pretty big. But Blackbeard was focused on 2 fruits. The Yami Yami no Mi, which I imagine Rox wanted, but he wanted the Guru Guru no Mi also. I find that really interesting because that was never really part of Rox's plan, and he never really even mentioned it, and he never even made a big deal like, yeah, my fucking first mate over here has the 3rd fruit that I really care about, the Guru Guru no Mi. So I'm very interested in what drove Blackbeard to be like, I also really want the Guru Guru no Mi, right? I feel like that might just be because that's the strongest fruit Blackbeard saw, like, Blackbeard might have just been aware that he needs a really, really just straight up combat strong fruit to go along with the Yami Yami no Mi, so he might have gone for the Guru Guru. But the last thing I think is like, can Blackbeard eat a 3rd fruit? If he can eat a 3rd fruit, then maybe he is waiting out for the Nika fruit. If he can't eat a 3rd fruit, then I'm really curious why he chose to go for the Guru Guru rather than a Nika fruit. As for why Blackbeard didn't try to partner with Luffy, I think it's very possible that Blackbeard didn't know Luffy has the Nika fruit. Right? Luffy didn't even know he has the Nika fruit. It seems like nobody fucking knew Luffy had the Nika fruit, except for secretly the Gorosei, and they just didn't tell anybody ever. Because if it's such a special and important fruit, like, Luffy's met a million different really important characters. Kaido didn't know it was, like, a fucking important fruit. Like, nobody comments on that shit, right? So maybe it's just because the Goma Goma no Mi presents as just the rubber fruit. I think Blackbeard might have just thought Luffy has the rubber fruit. It's probably been a long time since the Nika fruit itself was awakened, so you would have no way of really knowing that, like, okay, Luffy has that fruit, unless you know, you're an ancient character like a Gorosei or something. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 300 real quick. Duck20, thanks for the 5. Rox thinks he killed his family, Emu as well, because of Kuma's power. Oh, shit. You think that he thinks he killed his family? Let me read that again. Shit. Does he think that? He slashes, so I guess he doesn't know. There's no way for him to know. I feel like, couldn't he have seen that his wife and child disappeared? Because he can see them disappear first, right? He should be able to see them disappear and then see that Kuma himself disappears. But maybe it all happens so fast that he doesn't process it. And as we know, observation hockey in One Piece is kind of suspect. But yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting point. I didn't interpret it like that, but maybe that's possible. I mean, he is crying and everything. Carnage, thanks for the 10. If Blackbeard has the same plan as Rox... No, we covered that. Sorry. Virgil Hawkins, good to see you as usual, man. Thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 37 months. Make sure to get your submissions in for the Pirate King podcast if you have not already, man. Happy belated birthday, probably. Ah, shit, you do actually know. Yeah, it was my birthday recently. I'm not going to say what specific date, but it was my birthday recently. I appreciate that. Thoughts on the Chainsaw Man manga recently? And you need to pick back Haikyuu. It is very much worth it, filled with life lessons. Witch Hat Atelier is also a must-read. Oh, man, I keep fucking forgetting about Witch Hat Atelier. Haikyuu. I fucking forget about Haikyuu. I should get back into Haikyuu, because I did really enjoy it. Maybe after 2B Hero X. Maybe after that. I'm going to finish 2B Hero X, and then maybe I'll get into Haikyuu after that. It's a good point. Chainsaw Man manga, I'm letting the chapters build up a little bit. So I caught up to where it feels like the final arc kind of just kicked off with a I don't want to give any spoilers really, but I got up to where I feel like the final arc's conflict has officially kicked off, and then I stopped reading because I just want to let it play out. And then I'll binge the whole final arc. CR, thanks to the 5. Thoughts on God's Knight / Emu only being damaged by Conqueror's Haki infused weapons like 12 Supreme Grade Swords, or Joy Boy's not? Similar to Logia versus Seastone. I think that'd be kind of random, like, so then Joy Boy can't damage Emu unless he first puts his stuff into a knot and then does it. That seems kind of roundabout to me, but, anything's possible. We're still learning new things about hockey. Let's get the stream lights up to 300 real quick. Ignorant Weed, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 22 months, man. Again, if you've not gotten your Pirate King submission in already, definitely do that. Last month we had, I think, the most Pirate King questions we've ever had, so that was kind of insane to go through. So definitely get yours in for this month. And if you're not already a Pirate King tier member, then definitely consider joining, because what basically happens, the Pirate King podcast that I've shout out, is a podcast that where any Pirate King member can submit any question that they have, and it doesn't have to be just about One Piece. It can be about other anime, manga, books, TV shows, movies, real life, whatever. Obviously real life with caveats, but anything, and then I answered in far greater depth than I would on stream because I have more time, because it's just an extended podcast. And I answer everybody's questions in an hour and a half-ish long podcast. So definitely check that out if you're interested. You still have time to get in your submissions for the upcoming Pirate King podcast. And you get access to all previous Pirate King podcasts, of course. Ignorant Weed said, I'm legit terrified for the Strats after we return. I think they've never been so out of their depth. Also, I love the whole setup before the flashback, and it's only getting better with time. I still feel like Sabaody is when the Strats were most out of their depth, or even just against Aokiji or something like that. Because in those situations, they had no hope of fighting back, right? They had to pray that Rayleigh came in and saved them and stuff, and then Kuma came in and saved them. Here, they still are in that situation. But it's at least Luffy and Loki should be able to, put up a little bit of a fight against Emu. Whereas I think back in the day, they literally couldn't fight. You can't fight a Kizaru. You cannot touch him. You cannot touch Aokiji, And I think that everybody else on the island is doable. That's a weird way to phrase it, but, I think that the Gods Knights, if Zoro, Sanji, I guess really Zoro at the moment can figure out Conqueror's Haki a little bit better, Gods Knights should be doable, right? Even fucking Dami Reversi, Dorian Brogy, to some degree doable. Emu's the real big problem, right? But I think that they can at least try to hold out against Emu a little bit. It just wouldn't work. But you know what I mean? I would agree that in the new world, post-time skip, after the Strats have gone through 2 years of training, mastered a lot of hockey shit, all the power-ups and everything, this is the most out of their depth that they've been since pre-time skip. I hope that Oda can hammer in that sense of tension when we get back. Because, the Strats should feel how out of their depth they are. Because it's tricky, because, Egghead was also a situation where they should feel out of their depth. But it just, because they couldn't do any, it was an Admiral plus that entire fleet, and then 5 Gorosei. And, even Luffy was having trouble, none of them could damage the Gorosei. Luffy was having trouble even holding back just, one, like Warcury and stuff. So the Strats should have felt really out of their depth at Egghead. I think that was one of my things with Egghead, which is just, I don't know why Oda went with, a lighter tone for the... He, portrayed the Gorosei as really scary, but he made it feel Luffy and Dorian Brogy, they're all just, laughing and giggling as they run away. And, it's kind of for, a lot of positive moments, Luffy and Bonnie, going, yeah, we're, in Nika mode now and stuff like that. And it never really felt like the Strats are terrified of the situation that they're in. And I guess we're past a point where they should feel terrified, but at least, stressed. At least feel the pressure, right? At least feel like we're under pressure and, this is good at, these are kind of some overwhelming odds that we have to step up to match. I feel like that would have been good for the Egghead climax. So I'm I hope that Oda pulls that out at least here against Emu, Beep, thanks for the 5. I think given every non-legend has fucked off the island, Herald could come help Rocks, just based on how Rocks defended Herald so much despite the BS. Yeah, I would love for Herald to show up. It just feels so... It's if Harold doesn't show up, it's just, I can't forgive him as a character. It's just so shitty. Because, like, Rox literally told him everything. Like, he tells him, the world government's manipulating you. He tells it, like, Rox is loyal to Harold to the end. That's the crazy thing. Like, some of Rox's final words. Is it his final words? Let me check. Are these Rox's final words? Rox's final words are defending Harold. Giants, you bastards, stay away from Harold. He just wants peace. If Harold does not show up for this man, I am not forgiving Harold. If Harold does not show up for this guy, I'm not forgiving Harold. This is like, actually, what the fuck? Those are his final words, are defending the friend who sold him out and tried to kill him. Oh my god. Harold better show up. Harold better show up. Otherwise, I'm going to be rooting for Emu to Dami Reversi him. Yeah, straight up. It'll be like, you get what you deserve for being a shitty friend, not listening to your friend, and for being a fucking dodo muppet in terms of trusting the world government who fucking made the world as shitty as it is. I'd literally just be like, fucking good. Dami Reversi his ass. Like, fuck that guy. He's basically been a puppet all along. So, like, make it literal. That being said, if Harold comes back to save Rox, I'm sure it'll be one of the most heartwarming moments in One Piece history. I don't know how he would save him exactly, but maybe there's a way. Bane, thanks for the 2. Emu Rox moment felt 1-to-1 Doflamingo King Riku. I'm not even going to respond to that. Wait till next Tuesday's video. Wait till next Tuesday's video. It all comes together. I promise. Next Tuesday's video is a fucking good-ass video. I just don't even want to say anything. Carnage, thanks for the 5. Garp getting a lot of slander, but what about Roger? His crew failed to acknowledge the hunt and didn't help anyone. Can't imagine the Strahds doing that. How's Garp getting slander? I don't even know why is Garp getting slandered? Garp was literally like, I'm going to kick this guy's ass. Whatever's happening here is wrong. Isn't it the other way? Because Garp at least thinks whatever is happening here is wrong. And he's like, this isn't justice, yada yada. Roger has not once acknowledged whatever the fuck is going on here. He's just like, oh man. There's literally slaves dying all around me. And all I can think about is how, like, fuck, I can't, my chances of getting with Shaki are out the window because she likes my best friend more than me. That's literally what was on Rox's mind. He was like, fuck, she picked Rayleigh. All right, I guess let's get her back to the ship. And everybody just focused on that and focused on getting treasure. As for that, can't imagine the Strahds doing that. I mean, so technically, I saw people talking about that on Twitter earlier. And then some people did rightly point out that, no, the Strahds have been in that exact same situation. They went to the auction house and they saw a shit ton of slaves there. And they literally were just like, this slave isn't Kami, this slave isn't Kami, this slave isn't Kami. These slaves are basically, like, they just didn't care, you know? I think the Straw, it's complicated because the Strahds will care about that shit. It's just like, it's like in the flow of them. It depends on the situation. Sometimes when Oda has them kind of tunnel visioned, that's the thing. When he has them tunnel visioned on saving one specific person or doing one specific thing, then he has them not really care about anything else, you know? Like when Luffy's going to save Ace and Hannibal's like, you're letting free like a bunch of like mass murderers and stuff who are going to kill a lot of people, and Luffy's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't care, right? That's the type of thing that'll happen. But then if you flip things and it's like, remember in Dressrosa when like all that, like Doflamingo begins the Great Purge with the birdcage and everything, and Luffy's telling Rebecca like, I'm going to beat Doflamingo for you, and Law's like, Straw Hat, that's not part of the plan or whatever, and Luffy's like, look at what's going around to all these people, I can't just let this happen, you know? So it's complicated because Luffy didn't really care that much beforehand. And it's possible he wouldn't have gotten that invested if not for Rebecca. But once they get, all they need is somebody to kind of bring them into the fold, and then they do care somewhat. Like, they open their eyes a bit, and they're like, we do care. Because Luffy saw slaves earlier. He saw the gladiators that are, like, forced to fight and everything and kept in cages. And it's not like he was like, I gotta free them. Luffy's been in similar situations. It's just, it's like a 50-50. If he's like, I care enough in this moment to do something, you know? It'll just depend. It's just gonna depend. Roger Pirates, similar situation. They're tunnel vision on saving the person that they care about, which is Shaki. And then they're like, we're also going to pick up treasure and stuff. And I think there might just be like a processing gap here in that I don't know if they're fully grasping. Like, they arrived, all the fighting broke out. So you got slaves running around. But how much of the Roger Pirates, how aware are they even that these are slaves? Because the Celestial Dragons are all scattering as soon as the fighting breaks out. So the hunting competition is kind of off. I think it's just a bit of tunnel vision, and that's kind of what we've seen. Like, even the good pirates, they kind of will, like, just focus on what they're already focusing on rather than try and save other people, generally speaking. But it just depends, you know? Like, Luffy sometimes will be made aware enough of all the suffering that's going around that he's like, I really want to stop this. So it just depends. Hold on. Factory Cow, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 19 months, man. Hey, Morge Skellington, building off Usopp's speech to the Wano Samurai, I think he will be the one to unreverse Dorian Brogy. Plus, did rocks hit Kuma? I would love if Usopp's the one who frees Dorian Brogy, because I saw some other people say, like, a potential matchup is Usopp fighting Dorian Brogy. But I'm just like, how do you even be able to do that? I don't know. Did rocks hit Kuma? No, it looked like Kuma poofed himself out. I think that was the last. I think Kuma's off the island now. I think that was the last thing that we see, which is see Kuma do. So we see Kuma teleport. We see him teleport them, and then we see one final poof, which is Kuma teleporting himself. So I think Kuma might be off the island, or maybe moved himself to somewhere else on the island. Beep, thanks for the 5. If this entire incident is... Because Kuma was before this saying he's just trying to save... Like, he's like, let me just save, like, one more person or something like that. So that might have been his last thing. And then he's like, nah, I'm done. Beep, thanks for the 5. If this entire incident is being told by Loki, especially with this level of detail, there's no way Harold doesn't show up. Also, Garling a bum. Oh, my God, Garling is just... We did a this Monday stream, we did, like, whose stocks has God Valley helped or hurt the most, and... not unanimous, but like near overwhelmingly the favorite for whose stocks had been hurt the most was Garling. This does not look good for Garling. I don't think the incident is being told by Loki at this point, because you got to remember in One Piece, lots of times like flashbacks begin being narrated by a certain character, but they don't necessarily, like, they end up encompassing details that go beyond what that character actually knows. So it's more like Oda's kind of merging like what's actually happening in the flow of events itself, like what the Straughts are experiencing and what characters are telling them. He kind of merges that with like what Oda himself needs to show the reader. So it just becomes like it's kind of like opening the door a little bit to Oda just being like, okay, now I'm going to cut to just show the reader everything that happened, but our takeaway is just like, what are the main details that would logically make sense that Loki would have been able to tell the Straughts, you know? Damage Eater, thanks for the 5. I wonder if Kaido knew about Harold. Oh, like when Kaido thinks he's the strongest creature? Well, to be fair, Harold would have been dead by the time Kaido starts considering himself the strongest creature. I think Kaido probably began to consider himself the strongest after Whitebeard died, I would imagine. Still insanely curious about why Kaido went to try to intercept Whitebeard at Marineford. What was going on there? Because Whitebeard was really Kaido's big bro, you know? It doesn't even really make sense why Kaido even, like, clashed with Whitebeard in general, because it's stated that the Yonko all had, like, territory wars with one another. But that must be an exaggeration, because we could probably assume that Shanks didn't really have territory wars with Whitebeard. It's also interesting that, like, Big Mom just is like, I would have taken down Whitebeard, Kaido, and Shanks if I'd just been able to become, like, allies with Elbaf. But it's like, why do you want to take... I guess it makes sense. I don't know. But they all liked each other. It's so crazy, man. They all liked each other. It's just like... It's weirdly heartwarming because it's just like the modern story of One Piece. Like I've been saying, like it's so fractured. It's like these great pirate emperors that all like are gunning to kill each other, take each other down or whatever. But you just rewind a bit and it's like, man, simpler times. They're all just literally chilling, adventuring, drinking together. It was all one big happy family. And they don't even hate each other that much. Like nothing happened that would make Big Mom hate Whitebeard, Kaido hate Whitebeard. Maybe there are misunderstandings that we have yet to witness as we reach the conclusion of God Valley, so we might still have more to see, but it's just sad to see how things once were. Yeah, it also just makes me like Kaido and Big Mom more as characters, because I'm just like, they're not even that bad. These characters that, like, enslaved entire nations and, like, did all that shit, they're just, at their heart, they're just, like... They're just fun-loving pirates, you know. You can get a beer with them. Man, Big Mom really... I think Big Mom is really the sad case here. Because, like, you just see her now, and she's just, like... Her brain is fucking, like, oatmeal at this point. It's just absolute mush. Entire personality has just gone to shit. Dementia, addled, nasty, mean, old hag, as they call her or whatever. It's all fair, and it's just, like... She was cool earlier. She was, like, actually somewhat concerned about rocks, you know? She even seemed like maybe a good mom earlier. She was like, I want to get these devil fruits for my kids. I want to feed my kids fruits, you know? She was grocery shopping at God Valley for her children. Jumbo Dumbo, thanks for the 5. If you could cast Zebek voice actor, who would you pick? I think Keith David would be amazing. Who's Keith David? Zebek voice actor. I don't know. That's a hard one. Maybe, is it Jeffrey Rush? Who voices Barbossa? It's a little Barbossa-esque. Not quite. Maybe a little bit of that. A little bit more jolly than Barbossa, though. Carnage, thanks for the 2. Wonder how Dami Reversi Herald was killed. Yeah. Because, like, basically they had to pull out all the stops to kill Rocks, right? Like, it's literally Roger and Garp practically in their primes, right? Like, near their very best, at their prime, whatever you want to say. We'll get more context, I assume, soon. But it's literally like Roger and Garp, Pirate King, strongest Marine in history, teaming up together to fight to try and defeat Dami Reversied Rocks, right? Like, Dami Reversied Rocks was, like, one-shotting Whitebeard. You know, one-shot is maybe unfair because I don't think Whitebeard is knocked out, but, like, it's just... If he's able to do that to Whitebeard, again, Whitebeard not yet quite at his peak, but not far off as far as we've seen. Like, Whitebeard is clearly way stronger here than he was at Marineford. No heart attacks, no IV tubes, no life support. He can actually use Conqueror's Haki, unlike at Marineford. He's using named moves and all sorts of shit. Like, clearly way stronger than when he was at Marineford. And Rock's just, like, tears through him. So I have no idea. Like, even if Loki's really fucking strong. Let's say Loki, in modern day, is as strong as fucking... let's say he's as strong as... if we want to be really generous, let's say he's as strong as, like, Roger is right now in this flashback. I think that's really generous. Let's say he's as strong as Whitebeard is right now in this flashback, right? He still wouldn't be able to take on Dami Reversied Herald. Dami Reversied Herald should be as strong as Dami Reversied Rocks. And then the other part of it is also just like... Sorry, Dami Reversied Herald, right, should be equal to Dami Reversied Rocks, just about, right? The other part about it is, like... There's like castle guards and shit involved, but like even like 100 of those should be nothing to Herald, especially Dami Reversied Herald. Jarl fucking sucks. He lost a 5-year-old Big Mom. So yeah, I just don't know. There's no way Loki is that strong that he could solo Dami reversing Herald. I just don't think that's possible. I don't think any character that we know at the moment can solo Dami reversing Herald or Rocks necessarily. Right? Outside of Emu himself, presumably Joy Boy, right? So I don't know how... There's got to be other stuff. Kurakami Najimi says Rocks and Herald aren't Pirate King level is the answer. Even if that is the answer, they're still clearly way above... Like again, just Marineford Whitebeard versus God Valley Whitebeard, right? God Valley Whitebeard clearly would stomp Marineford Whitebeard to have a heart attack halfway through this, right? God Valley Whitebeard is no match whatsoever to Dami Reversing Rocks, right? And you kind of just see from the scale, like a single clash basically levels half an island. That's way above anything that we're seeing in modern day One Piece. No characters are doing that nowadays, right? It just wouldn't make any... It would mean that Loki has to be like way above Yonko level. Like Loki would have to be... Like it just doesn't make any sense. They'd have to be so strong, you know? Did Herald break free? Maybe. Maybe. And then the bigger thing is then it's like, well, then how does Shanks beat Loki? Because look, I think Shanks is really strong. I don't think he's like 5 times stronger than Roger at God Valley or like everybody at God Valley, you know? Damage Eater, thanks to the 5. I was trying to take a crack at the reason why Kaido said that pirates will abandon you, if he could be referring to Herald. Oh, I see what you're saying, but I don't think he'd be referring to Herald there. I don't know if that makes sense for Herald. Meek, thanks for the 5. Something I do after the flashback is reread Whole Cake Island / Wano with the lens of God Valley incident and try to trace what aspects of their personality come from God Valley. Yeah, and because the cool thing is that I love when it's clear that Oda has planned all of this stuff beforehand, right? Because the Davy, like everything happening here, early planned very early on. Davy Jones is a concept planned very early on, like Blackbeard's lineage, etc. The God Valley incident planned very early on. So that means that everything that we're seeing in Whole Cake Island and Wano is stuff that Oda already had in mind what he wanted to do with Big Mom and Kaido when he did those arcs, right? So that's really fascinating. I'll probably reread those arcs again. Well, I might skim some of their stuff. Mad Ike, thanks for the 5. How do Big Mom and Kaido not know Rocks isn't himself when he's attacking them? Garp is like, Rocks, what the fuck have you become? And he's dumb. Roger and Garp know. And Big Mom even says Rocks has become bigger. And I think the wings should be a tip-off. And like, it's a world where devil fruits and devil powers are a thing. You could argue that it all happens so fast that it's confusing. I don't know. Let's see what the reactions are when they wake up. Also, let's get the stream lights up to 300 real quick. Carnage, thanks for the 2. Shanks and Gaban were close by. Maybe it was them. But, like, then why don't they clear Loki's name? Because if Shanks and Gaban are part of the battle, then that means that they went to help fight Herald. They helped kill Herald. And then they just let Loki take the fall for it. And all the Giants of Elbaf think that Loki killed his father in cold blood. So I don't know. I like to think that maybe Herald held back for a moment. Like maybe he was able to take control of himself for a moment. But that's crazy because like even Rocks couldn't stop himself from attacking Eris and Blackbeard. And I really did believe last chapter that Rocks would be able to fight back somehow. Like rein in the Dami Reversi effects at least for a moment. At least for a moment. I don't know. So maybe there's something else we're missing here. Justin Holland, thanks for the 5. Whitebeard remembering simpler times that were ruined by Emu may tie into his final words about a man who will carry the weight of the world against Emu. Yeah, maybe. It adds more perspective to all these characters. Bassam El Madawi, thanks for the 5. Joy Boy is described as a warrior of liberation. Perhaps the real point of Gear 5th is to counter Dami Reversi, but Yomi Yomi counters Emu's immortal body. I do think that, Yami Yami counters Emu's immortal body. Yeah, so I talked about this actually in this Tuesday's Patreon podcast. Okay, so I personally think that Luffy's, like, because people are talking about, like, you probably need the Nika fruit to counter Emu. I think the Nika fruit counters, because Emu's powers fall into two categories, okay? One is you can't hurt him. That's the immortality operation at work. That's the immortality operation. That's the Ope Ope no Mi's effect. Because it's established that Emu got the immortality surgery. Oda basically makes that clear for us, right? So the inability to hurt or permanently damage Emu seems to be immortality, okay? Then, what do you call? The fact that Emu can do all this devil magic, so the Abyss ability, the Dami Reversi stuff, conjuring weapons, being able to grant some of his powers to his subordinates, right? That all seems to be Emu's own fruit, whatever fruit that is, right? I personally think it's the Sea Devil fruit. I strongly feel it's the Sea Devil fruit because now I'm more and more convinced that the further back you go in the story, that's where you can see Oda's, like, most long-term planned ideas, right? So, like, the same way Davy Jones is turning out to be, like, a huge deal, and that's something that was planted in, like, the first 10% of the story, right? Like, well, that's not actually correct, but, like, very early in the story, right? Davy Jones being planted very early, the Sea Devil concept being planted very early in the story. I personally think the further back you go, the more likely it is that, like, the concept introduced there is vital to the end of One Piece, right? So I think Emu has the Sea Devil fruit or whatever, which is why his fruit is so broken. But I think that the fact that you can't hurt or damage him is immortality operation, right? So those are two separate things. So, my perspective, I think that the the Nika fruit is vital to being the one thing, like the Sun God fruit, being able to counter Emu's own Devil Fruit abilities. Maybe it helps against Dami Reversi, maybe it helps against all of those, like, demonic magic shenanigans that he does, right? It flips it on its head. We don't know. In terms of actually damaging Emu and countering regeneration, you probably need Haki. But to permanently kill him, you probably need the Yami Yami no Mi. Because it's similar to what we saw with the God's Knights. With really, really strong Haki, you can counter the God's Knights' regeneration. Like, you can cut them up, you can damage them, you can make them feel pain, you can beat them up. You still can't kill them. Because Gaban absolutely decimates Sommers, cuts him in half. He beats his ass. But even then, he's countering the regeneration, but he's not actually killing him. I think it's the same with Emu. I think characters with... like, same with Joy Boy, you can counter Emu's regeneration with Haki, and that's why Emu really fears Haki. But I think then you counter his demonic powers with Devil Fruits. Well, sorry, the Gear 5th. You know? That's my feeling right now. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 300 real quick. Immortality plus regen is broken. I mean, I think it's the same thing. Truckun says, sucks that again the solution is just strong Haki. I miss when you had to be creative to beat powerhouses. I disagree, because I think I've always preferred the idea in One Piece that, like, the way Luffy, Zoro, Sanji fight, it's all very straightforward, and I prefer that One Piece fights come down to actually, like, head-on combat. Because, like, to me it just felt like lots of times when Luffy had a random inconvenience, it was rare, first of all. Very rare that Luffy actually had to, like, think of a workaround for a character's ability. It really only happened with Crocodile. It's literally just Crocodile that Luffy couldn't hit him, and Oda didn't want Luffy to learn Haki so early, so then it was the water reason, right? Aside from that, I just kind of prefer that, like, One Piece fights historically have been about, like, how do I say this? There are stories where, like, I really like the idea of, like, getting really creative with, like, your matchups and stuff like that, like JoJo's or, like, Hunter x Hunter or whatever, right? In One Piece, the thing I've always really liked is that One Piece fights seem to focus on just, unless it's like an Usopp fight, it's more straightforward. It's like, I can only defeat my opponent by improving myself, right? Like, I've really, really always liked that. Like, you look at all of Zoro's fights, there's no, like, trickery or anything like that, really. It's Zoro's up against a wall. He needs to get better at, like, he can't cut Mr. One. There's no secret, like, cheat way that he can get around the fact that he can't cut Mr. One. He just needs to get better at cutting. He needs to improve as a swordsman, right? Luffy can't like keep up with Lucci, right? He needs to push himself, right? He gets gears and everything like that, right? Even with Crocodile, like the water was the way that Luffy found a way that he can like start fighting Crocodile, but in terms of actually beating Crocodile, right? In terms of actually beating Crocodile, Luffy tells Crocodile at the start of their second round, he's like, you are right, I need to get better at like fighting. Like I needed to improve with my devil fruit. So he becomes a better fighter. I like that that's the same route with Haki. Like when Luffy couldn't damage Kaido, it's not like there's some sort of cheat way that Luffy can get around that. It's like, no, Luffy needs to get stronger. Like he's fighting against the world's strongest creature, but Luffy's trying to become the strongest himself. Like that's what the story's about. Luffy himself reiterates this multiple times. He is like, I need to become the strongest so that I can protect the people I care about. So I like that. I like that there's not cheat codes as much in One Piece. I like that this is the type of story that's consistent with the themes that we've had, which is like, you need to overcome directly, right? You need to overcome. Like, you need to push yourself, grow. Like, you actually need to grow to meet every challenge. I like that for the themes of the story. I wouldn't like if there's like some sort of like gimmick answer to some of these things. I like that the answer is like, you need to grow yourself. There's no ways around it. There's no shortcuts. You got to get better. I like that. I don't like how Oda's handled the levels of Haki and like how they're portrayed and things like that, but the concept is much more consistent with what One Piece was. I think people latch on to the one instance, which is like, well, what about that time he used water against Crocodile? It's like, dude, that's the anomaly. All the other fights, he just has to get stronger. You know, and even against Crocodile, the main thing was that he had to get stronger. Water was, it's not like Luffy could magically beat Crocodile just because he got water. He was finally able to actually fight Crocodile, but the main thing is that he needed to improve his own abilities. You know, Luffy at the end of Alabasta is a lot stronger than he was at the start. JP, thanks for the 10. So Gorosei and Gunko don't age and can be taken over by Emu. So only God's Blade amongst God's Knights gets Gorosei privileges, but why is this setup necessary? I really don't fucking know. I think it might be necessary because of how it'll tie back to Brook's shit. Because I think ultimately they're not going to be able to beat Emu at Elbaf. So Oda needed to plant an out beforehand. So I think in a roundabout way he was like, well, what if Emu is there because he's possessed somebody that has a connection to one of the Straw Hats, and then that connection allows for I mean, Brook's music is a smart way of doing it, but like Brook's music and Gunko's former connection to Brook is what allows Emu to be driven out, and therefore you need to write like a character who is very ancient and who is around from Brook's time. I think that's a possibility. All right, I'm gonna have to wrap up stream shortly because we are doing a Halloween party in a bit. So I got to wrap up stream soon. I'm gonna answer 2 more questions, then we're gonna call it. Oh shit. Okay. Jared Boppler, thanks for the 5. Dominator Versi is similar to Luffy controlling people / who will be the equivalent to Bellamy fighting Luffy, Blackbeard, since they appeared together. I love the Doflamingo point because I just finished next Tuesday's script. Watch out for next Tuesday because that is actually a huge giveaway as to what Oda is doing in general with what happened in the Void Century. I don't even want to spoil anything, but I think I've got a phenomenal theory coming out next Tuesday. I don't know about the equivalent to Luffy fighting Luffy. Maybe it will be somebody. Fuck, maybe it's Shanks. I think fans would be very upset if that happened. But Blackbeard, since they appeared together, I don't know. I do think that there will be a scene where, like, it makes sense that Emu Dominator versus somebody close to a Straw Hat or close to somebody else that some character cares about, and then we get a, dramatic moment. But wait till next Tuesday's video. Hidden Sun God, thanks to the 5. The Nika fruit user can't be Dominator Versi because the drums of liberation / heartbeats will keep the user's soul active. That is a great possibility. I like that possibility a lot. It's kind of like Enel's lightning didn't work on Luffy because of the Gomu fruit, because of the rubber. What if that's the same for... Yeah, because it's just the freedom fruit, right? So Dominator Versi can't work. I like that because it makes it so that, like, it's not like a hack. It's just more so like Emu's cheap shit doesn't work on Luffy. I think that would work well. And then it comes down to like an actual fight between Luffy and Emu. Assuming it's not meant to be like for Blackbeard or whatever to take down Emu. But I think that would be really, really cool if that's the key. Brook's soul music may cause a similar effect. Yeah, that's a really, really good point. Lastly, I will say, the posters behind me are going away. For real. Next month, we are starting a new collection. If you want to get your ships posters, click the link above to One Dream Studio and grab the posters for yourselves. Just go to the ships posters collection. You can buy 2, get any 2 posters additional for free. So it's a really solid value and then really amazing value. And then on top of that, you can also get the whole batch of posters at a gigantic discount bundle. I'm not sure if they go away tonight once November starts or if they go away Tuesday once our first video comes out and we launch the next poster collection. But definitely get those posters because they are going away next month once we launch our new line of posters. And with that, crazy good chapter. Loved everything about it. One of my all-time favorite One Piece chapters. God Valley, officially my favorite section of storytelling since Marineford. And might top Marineford, who knows? But this is just masterclass writing from Oda. You can see all of the webs coming together. Just love this shit. And I think next week we have another chapter, so no break week. So yeah, with that, I love this shit. Happy Halloween.